The story begins with the main character not understanding what happened to him. He sees his little hand and realizes that he can't really move his body. Looking away, the main character sees a beautiful girl in front of him, but cannot understand who she is. Suddenly, he notices a window with his status, which indicated that he doesn't have a name yet, and all his stats are at level E. He emphasizes that he is at level 1 and doesn't even have a name. The main character was just a little baby who doesn't understand what happened to him. He looks around and sees only a beautiful room and a huge chandelier on the ceiling. The protagonist does not understand where he is. Then she notices a beautiful woman and thinks that she is his mother. He remembers that his previous mother was a rather plump and always annoying old woman. Then the hero hears a man's voice, who says that the child looks very much like a girl. The girl replies that the baby has the same lips as his father. She addresses the man as His Highness. The protagonist understands that the man in front of him is a member of the nobility. The man then announces that the baby's name will be Noah. The protagonist suddenly notices that the name in his status window has changed to Noah. The servants of the noble lord ask him about the child's future status. He answers that Noah will have the same status as the other children, an imperial prince. Noah's characteristic feature is water, so he will become the patron of the Armeria. The water item in Noah's stats changes to E+S. The prince does not understand what this could mean. Noah's status in the stats changes to Noah Ararato, the 13th imperial prince of the empire. Noah's water becomes SS level, which surprises everyone in the room. The hero realizes that his characteristics are visible to everyone in the room. The servants admire Noah's talents, noting that nothing less could be expected from the emperor's child. Noah is proclaimed the owner of incredible abilities. Everyone present in the room rejoices at the talents of the newborn. The hero understands that from an ordinary village boy, he was reborn as the 13th imperial prince. After some time, we see a huge mansion and bright rays of sunlight. The prince sleeps in the royal chambers. The room is beautifully and richly decorated. The already grown-up Noah is being changed by the maids. We see Noah growing up. He is now 6 years old. He is the 13th imperial prince. Every morning, when the prince gets out of bed, 2 maids change his clothes. Now he lives in this huge mansion that borders the royal palace. The once ordinary village boy became the imperial prince. Armeria became a feudal estate for many who came from the water clan. We see the indicator of Noah's water. It is equal to E+S, so the prince can see his status. The prince believes that it depends on how many subordinates are with him. To everyone else, his status looks like SSS. Even now, with dozens of maids by his side, the foundations of his strength overlap. In other words, by increasing the number of his subordinates, the prince becomes stronger. This most likely indicates that he has no limit to the growth of his abilities. Before his reincarnation, his maximum level was 8, but now he has no limit. Meanwhile, his transformation is coming to an end. The prince's dressing was finished, as reported by his maids. In his young years, Noah behaves quite calmly and reservedly. The maids notice that the young gentleman is behaving calmly, which is unusual for children of his age. They believe that this is what they call the character inherent to the monarch. The protagonist eats in the dining hall. Noah believes that at the age of 6, he can do almost nothing. The imperial prince has many different restrictions. Someone tells Noah that he was ordered to be escorted after the meal. The maid informs him that the heir to the throne and the 4th imperial prince want to see him. We see the doors open to the reception room. There are 2 men in armor sitting at a table. Noah orders that he be taken to them immediately. Noah bows before his brothers and greets them. We see the face of the 2nd prince, heir to the throne, Albert Arato. He takes notice of Noah's arrival. The 4th imperial prince Henry Ararato tells Noah that there is no need to treat them so respectfully and invites him to sit down. Albert notes Noah's good manners and says that he will become a famous prime minister in the future. Henry agrees with him. Albert tells Noah that he has prepared a gift for him and orders the servant to bring it here. Noah says that he will try to live up to his brother's expectations and at the same time asks why the brothers decided to invite him. We see a frightened servant carrying a large dark box that looks like a coffin. Noah turns in his direction in surprise. The servant is clearly uncomfortable carrying the brother's gift. Noah looks at the servant's face and does not understand what is happening. The subordinate arrives in a cold sweat and with a frightened face. He places the gift of the brothers and exhales. He is ordered to open the box, which is watched by Noah's two older brothers. We see a sinister black blade emitting a terrible aura. Albert orders his brother to take it, saying it is a gift. Noah is shocked to see the ominous sword. Taking the sword, a confused Noah asks his brothers what is going on. Albert is delighted and surprised by this and says that he did not doubt his brother. The name of this sword is Leviathan, the demonic sword of water. Before Noah took it in his hands, 120 people died. As the second prince reports with a very ominous expression on his face. Horrified, Noah lowers his sword. Prince Henry says he needn't worry about it. One of the brothers says it was quite dangerous, also mentioning that he was just about to throw the emperor's gift. When Noah holds the blade in his hands, a curse is constantly sent to him. Albert asks Noah about the rank of water. S-rank water could handle this demonic blade. They were just curious about what would happen to Noah, who has an SS rank. Albert claims that he does not want to continue to possess the sword, as it is dangerous for him. Noah realizes that his brother gave him the blade for this very purpose. Albert says that most people can't even hold a box of it, and he checks with the servant. The servant confirms the master's words and says that he felt as if his body was freezing and it felt like a needle prick. Albert says he has seen many such things in his time and apologizes for visiting so early. Noah watches them go with a displeased look. Later in the evening, the prince is in his bath. There he notices the restlessness of one of the maids accompanying him. The maid looks unwell. The prince, interested in this matter, asks the maid Zoya about her pressing problems. The maid refuses, saying that her problems are not worthy of His Majesty's attention, to which the prince orders her to tell him now what is wrong. The maid tells Noah that she is looking for some free time. Noah asks her about the reason for leaving the mansion. It turns out that her parents' farm was washed away during the spring floods. Her single mother can no longer afford to feed herself. Zoe hesitantly tells Noah about her plans to go to work in the red light district to sell her services there. The prince cuts her off. The maid is embarrassed to tell about this. The prince stands up with a serious face, apparently to make a decision. Noah offers to transfer her mother to the mansion. He will give the maid's mother a job. She will guard the back gate of the mansion for 10 ren. Zoya, perplexed, calls out to the gentleman. She says that she has never heard of such a job before, especially for 10 rens, a salary higher than average. Noah tells the servant about an abandoned house on the western outskirts of the city and allows her and her mother to live there. Zoya is very confused, after which, with tears in her eyes, she bows to Noah and thanks the gentleman for such a kind gesture. The prince did this in order not to tarnish his name, because his maid's work in the brothel had seriously damaged his authority. But what's worse is that the king could reprimand the prince for such actions. This maid will serve Noah until the end of her days, or until he throws her away. She cannot be sold to a brothel for a few dozen rin. After bathing, the prince is met by the head butler to inform him of the spring flood that has occurred in Doso. Noah orders them to buy as much land as possible, much to the surprise of his butler Dylan. The prince foresees that after the flood there will be many merchants who will try to destroy their crippled home. He orders them to be rescued before they do so. The prince's butler wants to object, since he clearly did not expect such an action from Noah. But the young man interrupts him, showing the firmness of his decision. Dylan reports that he is surprised by Noah's actions, recalling his previous prediction of the flood. The hero remembers that he has seen many such situations before Reincarnation. The butler reports that such a solution to the problem will cost about 500,000 ren. Despite the large expenses, Noah does not change his mind, telling Dylan that he can allocate such an amount. Dylan accepts the master's decision with humility. Noah asks if he has any more questions about the situation. The prince's subordinate bows and thanks His Majesty for such a decision, and then leaves. Noah remembers that Dylan is from these parts himself. He watches the servant with a knowing look. After a while, we see a luxurious palace. It contains a large library in which the emperor sits accompanied by a servant. Noah enters the room and appears before the emperor. He asks why the emperor has summoned him. The master of the empire, Mears, greets the prince with a thoughtful expression on his face. He gets up from the table and asks Noah about his pressing affairs. The prince reports on the good state of affairs, on his efforts for the good of the country. The sovereign turns to his son and informs him of his purchase of an entire village. Noah arrives in horror. He is surprised that the emperor knows about his decision. After all, Only a few days have passed since then. Moreover, he did not even inform His Majesty about it. The Tsar reassures his son, saying that he is not going to scold him for what he has done. Quite the contrary. Thanks to his son's decision, he is spared the unnecessary hassle of disorder. Nevertheless, the emperor praised his son, which clearly stunned Noah, who expected a reprimand. He asks his son how he learned of the trouble that had arisen. The prince replies that he heard about it from a servant in his residence who was going to sell herself to a brothel. The emperor understands that this was a coincidence, but also a blessing. He approves of his son's decision and intends to reward him. The father estimates that it costs him 8,000 Rhine a year to support his son, which is not that much for Noah. The average annual income for a 30-year-old resident of the capital is 120 Ren, so this is by no means a small sum. The emperor decides to increase the amount for his son's support by 1,000 Ren. In response, Noah thanks his father. The pleased ruler addresses the prince directly and praises him for his decision, telling him to continue in the same spirit. Noah is pleased with his father's decision and agrees with his words. Sometime after the audience, the hero decides to take a walk along the streets of the capital. He walks along a lively city square, the city, the most flourishing in the country. Noah looks at the counters of the city dwellers. Here, everything comes together: people, money, and goodness. There is a wide range of things to satisfy human desires, but with the body of a 6-year-old child, there is little the hero can do. Remembering the eunuch Caesar's mention of the singer in the market, the prince decides to check it out and goes to the market. Seeing the sign of a tavern, the hero decides to go inside, where the bartender points out to him a singer working in the building. The singer is performing on stage. She is dressed rather unusually, and her hair covers her eyes. Looking at her, Noah remembers that the singer's name was Alice. The singer performs in the center of the stage. She sings expressively and actively gesticulates, which attracts all the attention of the tavern visitors who have gathered in a circle for a meal. The prince looks at her and watches her performance with pleasure. He notes that her singing is not bad at all. Her technique is still in the development stage, but she sings seriously and sincerely. Noah is sure that she's a serious girl. Suddenly, a disgruntled cry is heard from the crowd, interrupting the girl's singing. The huge bull is indignant that the girl is singing in this bar. The bully breaks out to the girl in the company of his friends, hitting one of the tavern workers on the way. He shouts at her that she will not be able to pay off her father's debts in this way. The girl tries to object hesitantly, but the bully interrupts her. He comes up close to her and grabs her by the clothes, knocking her hat to the floor. Ruge is getting closer and closer to the singer, saying at the same time that she can earn money in another way, as a woman. The confused and frightened girl trembles with fear, realizing the man's intentions. The other visitors look at this with disgust, turning their gaze away from the stage. The singer shrinks and trembles in fear of this man. The prince interrupts his bad attitude towards the girl and addresses the man from the crowd. The prince watches the stage from the back rows. The tavern patrons turn to look at him. Bugai turns his head towards the boy and indignantly says that he should go play with his mommy. The prince comes on stage, facing the man. Noah tells the gang of hooligans that they are breaking imperial law by extorting money from the girl. The bull grabs the prince by his clothes and swings to hit him in the face, shouting at him along the way. But in the young man's hand is an incomprehensible ball, entwined with a floral pattern. It turns out that this is not just a ball, but a magical artifact that allows you to use a spell regardless of magical power. The effect depends only on the attributes of the wearer. A second later, each of the gang of thugs receives a painful wound to the shoulder, which knocks them to the ground. The tavern patrons are surprised by this outcome. Everyone looks at the scene. The prince leans over to the fallen enemy, asking him if he intends to continue the fight. In response, all three of the thugs flee the tavern. Noah is still standing on the stage. All the guests who came to the establishment applaud him and praise him for his deed. Noah approaches the hit worker and tells them to contact him if that gang shows up again. After these words, he hands the worker a piece of paper. The employee is shocked by what he sees on the paper. Wiping away his blood, he shouts out Noah's noble status in disbelief. All the people in the tavern are shocked by what they heard. The girl looks at the main character in bewilderment. The prince hands the singer the hat she dropped. Noah speaks flatteringly of the girl's talents and asks about her monthly salary. The singer, embarrassed, says that her earnings, taking into account her mother's medical bill, amount to 25 ren. As Noah leaves the stage, he replies that he will pay her every month when she gets better, so she shouldn't give up singing. Alice, embarrassed, clutches her hat to her chest and thanks Noah. The prince, smiling, leaves the stage and asks Alice to finish her song. At night, the prince walks down the city street and notices the old gang kneeling in front of the palace gates. Apparently, they know about Noah's situation. The prince enters the palace, where he is met by a maid. She informs him of a request for an audience from the daytime hooligans. Noah interrupts her and orders them to be driven away, stating that one cannot get an audience with the prince just like that. He is interrupted by brother Henry, confirming Noah's words. Noah is surprised by the appearance of the fourth prince. Henry says that accepting such people would be a disgrace to the royal family's reputation. Noah tells his brother about today's arrival. Noah thinks that this way they will think that the prince is still angry. Therefore, they will not pick on Alice. Prince Henry is pleased with his brother's decision, amazed that he thought it all through. Noah confirms his words, saying that this was his plan. Henry is interested in Alice's skills, asking his brother about her performance today. The happy young prince asks not to ask him about it. After some time, the brothers move to a separate room. There, Henry sits down on the couch and starts talking about today, mentioning that he has some information regarding the demon sword. Noah is mesmerized by his brother's story. Henry says that Leviathan has a will of its own. Surprised, Noah asks his brother again about Leviathan's will. Henry says that even though the sword doesn't speak, it certainly has a will. The difficulty is that it is rooted in the awareness of hierarchy. Henry advises thinking of the sword as a dog. You warn Henry that before using the sword, Noah should immediately show who is the boss among them. The prince thoughtfully analyzes his brother's words. After a while, he orders his servants to bring the demonic sword. Henry becomes interested in his brother's future actions. Noah sends the servant who brought the ominous thing to rest. At the same time, the protagonist picks up his sword, realizing what his brother is talking about. Intending to prove his readiness to his brother, he grips the sword. Liquid begins to squirt out of the Leviathan. Keeping the sword under control, Noah rests it on the floor. Prince Henry is in shock, surprised by Noah's action. Henry, surprised, tells Noah that he brought him completely to his knees. Henry demands the servants to show his brother's status. Noah smiles. Everything went smoothly as he planned. The status window displays the value E plus SS. The connection of subordinates to Noah does not only apply to people. Henry is amazed by Noah's characteristics. He says that at the age of 6, it's just amazing. Henry knows that no one else will see it. Henry looked towards his brother and assumed that it happened after Noah picked up the demon sword. Noah continued to hold Leviathan. Henry laughed. The fourth prince said that Noah was only 6 years old, but his water was already at SSS level. Henry looked confused. Prince Noah continued to stare at the demon blade in his hands. Noah confirmed his brother's words. Noah looked up at the stat sheet. He noticed that to him it looked like an E plus SS. Noah noticed that his brother's words were true. Noticing that when he wasn't holding the sword, the water status became SS level. The sword is stuck in the floor. The prince looks at it thoughtfully, saying that if everything remains as it is, if he does not carry Leviathan with him, looking at the sword, Noah expressed a desire to carry it with him. Henry replied that he would have to wait a few years, as his brothers and father were very tall. Obviously, Noah would grow taller too. An idea came to the prince. He looked at the sword in surprise and expressed the fact that a guess had come to him. Henry asked his brother what was wrong. In response, Noah said that he wanted to try something. He took the sword by the hilt. Noah took the blade in his hands and thrust it forward with determination. The prince began to focus. The sword in Noah's hands began to shrink in size. Henry, looking at the sword, was very surprised by this event. Surprised, Henry asked if Noah had changed the size of Leviathan. Noah, standing next to him with a blade in his hands, said that Leviathan had told him to do so. Henry said that this was unheard of, since Leviathan had been sealed and preserved for 200 years as a national treasure. The fourth prince admired Noah's talent, saying that it was amazing. Noah smiled, took the sword in one hand, and said that now he could carry it with him everywhere. The maid intervened in their conversation. She informed Noah that he had received an invitation. The maid said that the invitation came from the third vizier. He was holding a banquet at his residence. Both princes turned their attention to the maid. Noah turned to her and asked what time the banquet would begin. The maid told His Highness that he could come at any time. Noah thought about it and realized that he was the guest of honor, so the banquet would officially begin when he arrived at the residence. Noah turned to Henry and asked if he was going to the banquet. Henry looked at his brother and said that he didn't like noisy places. Noah accepted his brother's answer. Henry asked his brother if he was going to the banquet. Noah answered in the affirmative. Both princes left the mansion. Henry noticed a group of men kneeling in front of the palace. It was the group Noah had seen in the tavern. Suddenly, the bully screamed that he couldn't take it anymore. He shouted at the prince to stop being such a piece of shit. His comrades looked at him in surprise. The prince watched calmly as they tried to subdue the brute. Noah raised his sword and made a serious look. The big guy tried to get up again, but the company held him in place. He began to repeat his words. The gang bowed before the prince. They pushed the big guy's face to the ground and began to make him apologize. Henry asked his brother what he had done. Noah looked at his brother with the same look and said that he had apologized. Henry was very surprised by this. Henry smiled and said that the intimidation was too much to handle. Henry realized that Noah could already use things like that. The carriage is going in an unknown direction. It stops at the entrance to some mansion. The prince gets out of the carriage and sees a noble person meeting him. This is the third vizier, Jean-Brad Rayduc. He greeted His Royal Highness with joy. The prince began to walk towards the nobleman, thanking him for the invitation. He was looking forward to a pleasant evening. Noah and the vizier walked down the corridor of the mansion. The servants in front of them opened the gates to the main hall, in which there are many noble persons. Those present in the hall were delighted at their arrival and began to clap their hands. Noah and the vizier went to the center of the hall to the applause. The crowd noted that His Highness the 13th Prince looked very dignified for his age. As expected from the son of an emperor, the vizier leaned towards the prince. He wanted to tell him something. The vizier said that he did not remember the prince's blade. Rayduc asked if it was there at their last meeting. Noah placed his hand on the sword and said that it was a gift from the crown prince. The sword known as Leviathan. Rayduc was very surprised. The vizier realized that this was a demonic sword, a national treasure. The crowd was very surprised by Noah's words. They realized the value of the crown prince's gift. Noah realized that Rayduc knew about Leviathan. A voice from the crowd said that the sword was just a fake toy. These words belonged to a man in the crowd. He realized that his loud words had been heard. The man turned away haughtily. Noah wondered what to do. The entire hall was filled with a dark aura, and everyone present began to choke. This effect was caused by Noah's sword. The prince applied the choke command. The guests were horrified. They looked at Noah with fear. A daring man from the crowd rushed away. Noah looked at the sword and wondered if his command, sit, would have been more appropriate. He clearly hadn't expected Leviathan to be so angry that it would release such a large amount of malice. The vizier marveled at the blade's abilities. He remarked on the prince's astonishment. He addressed the crowd, saying that those present had sensed the prince's greatness, and only a drop of the national treasure's power. The guests laughed nervously and began to applaud Noah, noting his power at such a young age. Noah was seated in a luxurious chair, followed by a simple greeting for upper-class aristocrats. However, Noah noticed a couple of different people. In front of him stood a man accompanied by a young girl. The man's name was Byron Allen. He introduced himself and his daughter Cindy and asked to get to know them a little. Noah looked at the Baron and assumed that Cindy was his adopted daughter. The vizier looked at the prince in surprise, asking if the prince knew about this information. Noah answered in the negative. He added that he had noticed this from some observations. The vizier praised the prince and asked how His Highness had understood this. Noah looked at Byron thoughtfully. He asked if Allen was second or third generation. Allen answered yes. The prince assumed that his behavior was similar to those born into the upper class, unlike this girl. Noah remembered the knowledge from his past life. He sees the difference in behavior between the upper and lower classes. The vizier is amazed at the prince's insight. Noah added that the child Allen had adopted was a slave. Byron and Cindy were very surprised that the prince even noticed this. It was all because of Cindy's eyes. A person who has been in slavery has a strange, inquisitive look in their eyes. Byron placed his hand on his daughter's head. Byron explained that he had bought her from a slave trader. He added that she was different from the others and very smart, so he made her his daughter. Noah smiled. The prince happily announced that he liked such things. This amazed Alan and Cindy. Noah added that next time he wants to invite them to his mansion and find out more about the girl. Alan agreed. The vizier noted that the prince saw right through him, which impressed him greatly. Noah added that there was another reason why he knew she was not his biological daughter. The vizier was eager for an answer. Noah noticed how Cindy responded to the intimidation. She stood in front of Alan to protect him. The prince added that usually a girl of her age would be protected. The vizier understood his train of thought. The vizier said that Noah had a wide range of thoughts because Noah had seen everything from the very beginning. This impressed the nobleman. After some time, Noah's morning mansion is visible. Zoe informs the prince that the third vizier has sent a token of gratitude. She inquires about the prince's next steps. Noah thought it must be gratitude for attending his party. This is one of the foundations of aristocratic relations. Sitting over a cup of tea, Noah ordered it to be received as usual. The prince looked at Leviathan. He thought that after subduing the sword, it would be unseemly to rely only on intimidation, so he decided to master the sword itself. Leviathan gave the signal. Noah asked the blade if it was agitated. Zoe noticed it and asked the prince, for what reason? Noah looked at the maid and said he was just thinking of something interesting. Zoe asked again. The prince started to leave the dining room and told Zoe to just wait and watch. Noah and Zoe went out into the yard. The prince stood with his sword in front of the tree. Noah thought to himself that he couldn't cut the tree down with them. The prince swung. His speed and strength are at level E and F, so he won't be able to cut down the tree with them. The prince struck and cut the tree across. The force of the blow shook the leaves of the tree. The tree in front of Noah flew down. Zoe was very surprised by this. She was amazed that the prince cut down such a big tree without any effort. The prince replied that this could not be done by force alone. These are the movements of the former owners of Leviathan. Noah has studied them and therefore will be able to cut the tree. The sword itself told Noah about it. The prince thinks that thanks to this he will look decent for a while. Noah turned his attention to the sword. Noah stood in front of the felled tree and looked at the sword. The prince thought about it. Zoe asked what was going on. The prince turned to Zoe with a splash in his hands. He asked the maid if she knew what it was. Zoe gave a positive answer, saying that the item in the master's hands was an artifact used to activate magic. Noah raised his sword and looked at it. The prince suggested that the sword could do the same thing, but without consuming human magic, and could only be used once an hour. The prince smiled. He held the sword out in front of him and said he would try again. Noah swung it at the stump. Zoe smiled and guessed that the prince was now extremely excited. Leviathan glowed. Noah's hands rushed forward. The sword began to glow, and the blade itself was covered with a strange line. Noah was very surprised by this. Meanwhile, the tip of his sword was closing the distance with the stump. An incredibly bright light came from the stump. Noah was very surprised by this outcome. A giant column of water flew into the sky. The shockwave creaked the trees and threw the maid back. A powerful stream of water came in front of Noah, shaking the trees. Drops of water were flying everywhere. The column of water disappeared from the sky and drops poured down. In place of the pillar, there remained a large crater. In front of it stood the prince with his blade lowered. Zoe, drenched in water, watched in amazement as drops of water continued to fall on the yard. The maid was soaked to the skin and noted the prince's incredible abilities. A giant crater remained. Noah laughed and said he was unable to change course. He also noted that he could not see the bottom of the crater at all. The Leviathan was covered in drops of water. Noah realized that the blade really was a strong threat. The prince looked at his blade with amazement and fear. The prince and the sword were covered in streams of water. After a while, we see the baths. The maids are washing Noah's body. Zoya says that the master got very dirty during the last training. Another maid asks the prince if there is any dirt left on his body. Noah confirms that there is dirt on his body, after which the maids continue their work. After finishing his bath, Noah leaves the bathhouse, where he is met by a maid with a letter. She informs the prince that he has a visitor. She gives him a letter for the governor of the Hojoy lands from the sender Murray. After some time, Noah, dressed for the reception, stands before the man who sent the letter. He understands that the expansion of the territory is coming. The visitor bowed before the prince and apologized for distracting his master from his daily affairs. The prince ordered Murray to sit down. They sit opposite each other. Noah asks Murray about His Majesty's order. He was ordered to switch to the hydropathic method in the lands of the Hojoi. Murray confirms the prince's words. The lands of the Kojas are on the banks of a large river. This land is fertile and ideal for a granary, but sometimes it floods, causing disasters. The emperor's idea is to eliminate this problem and create a stable granary. For this purpose, Muri of Almeria was appointed governor. The prince asks him how the implementation of the emperor's plan is going. In response, the guest says that the budget is constantly being cut and there is a shortage of workers. The prince expresses bewilderment and informs the governor that the emperor did not give such orders. Murray realizes that the Treasury Department is involved in this problem. Noah gets up from the table and heads out of the room, ordering the governor to follow him. After some time, we see a luxurious palace on the shore of a lake. Noah is sitting in a richly decorated dining room. Opposite the prince sits Finance Minister Maeve Rick. Murray is also in the room. Rick is clearly not interested in talking to the prince. Rick asks the prince the purpose of his visit, to which Noah tells the minister about the reduction of funding for the emperor's project. The minister insists that His Majesty not interfere in matters of financing, but the prince stands his ground and demands an explanation from the minister. Maeve is being cagey and reluctant to talk to the prince, which makes Noah suspect that the minister doesn't want to deal with him because of his age. Maeve overcomes herself, and with a good-natured smile declares that such a thing never even occurred to him. The minister informs the prince about last year's flood in Hojoi, and Murray confirms his words. Rick told that the emperor lifted the taxation from Haja for a whole year. Noah listens attentively to the words of the minister, waiting for the continuation of the story. Rick continues his speech by talking about the current floating tax. Murray listens to their dialogue, gradually building up stress. In response to the minister's words, Noah asks if the minister thinks he is a fool. Rick refutes the prince's words. Noah backs up his words by saying that taxation cannot be removed for some reason. Murray and the minister were surprised by the prince's words. Noah says that it was not an order, but a favor. Then he asks Rick why he did not tell everything as it was. The minister mentions the construction of a summer resort for the emperor to accommodate his age. The prince confirms his words. Continuing the conversation, Rick is cunning and tells the prince that His Majesty's resort will be transformed into an entire city with a population of 5,000 people. Thinking that his words have confused the prince, Maeve rejoices triumphantly. But Noah cuts off his rejoicing, suspecting the minister of disrespecting the king. Noah's statement drives his interlocutor into panic. By continuing to accuse the minister, the prince drives him into a dead end. Eventually, the young man comes to the conclusion that controlling the water is a priority over building a villa for the emperor. Rick is forced to agree, as Noah has begun to threaten him by directly appealing to his father. At that very moment, the minister stands up in panic and issues an order to prioritize Koja. Hope awakens in the governor. Murray realizes that the prince has used his wits to force the minister to surrender. He begins to praise the prince for the excellent negotiations he conducted with Rick. Murray feels ashamed for asking His Majesty for this position. He thought the prince would solve the problem by cruel treatment. He thanks the prince for his help. Sometime later, we see the prince getting ready to go home. Murray informs him that he will return to work as soon as possible. The conversation is interrupted by a messenger. He tells the prince that the emperor is expecting him to visit. We see a beautiful castle in the rays of the sun and a large, luxurious garden. In this garden, the emperor stands and feeds the birds. The prince comes to his father and informs him of his arrival. The emperor asks his son to sit down. The father praises his son for his brilliant handling of the Haja financing. This greatly surprises Noah. The emperor says that he knows about his conversation with Maeve. Noah is discouraged, having recently left the Treasury Department. He supplements his speech by saying that information is the best weapon that he must constantly polish. The emperor praised his son once more. To which Noah replied that he did not deserve praise. He did what he had to do, and besides, it was easy. While feeding the birds, the emperor objected that even what is easy and necessary, not everyone can do. He approached his son. Father patted Noah on the head and smiled. He also mentioned that the prince has complete control over Leviathan. He thinks this fact is wonderful. After these words, the emperor turned around and said that he must make his son a master of the sword. His next order was to call Noble. A man in armor appeared in the distance. Coming closer, he introduced himself as Damien Noble. The Emperor informed him of his intention to teach Noah how to wield a sword. Damien said he would do his utmost to achieve this. He is known throughout the Empire as a swordsman without equal. Damien said that it was a great honor for him to train the prince. After these words, he took out his sword and aimed it at Noah. The Emperor informed him that the boy had not been trained in fencing. In response, the knight said that he was not interested in skills, but in character. The prince was surprised at how easily the king agreed. The prince looked at Damien seriously. After that, Noble told him to attack. Noble asked if the prince could attack from all positions. Noah confirmed his words. Noah jumped up and slashed with his sword, which Damien was able to block. He then quickly spun his sword around, allowing him to throw the blade out of his opponent's hands. Noble's sword flew over the Emperor. Noble and the Emperor were surprised by this. After this, Noble admitted that he would not be able to train Noah. The Emperor demanded an explanation, to which Damien replied that Noah's strength and speed were at a child's level, but his swordsmanship was masterfully developed. Noah was able to take the sword from him with just one technique. The Emperor laughed and praised him. Damien was convinced of Noah, and the prince was appointed head of knight selection. Damien believes that the prince is the best for this position. The selection of a knight is an annual event. The term empire on earth means a land of warriors, as Mirs is an old word meaning warrior. The empire has a tradition of valuing warriors. This tournament is a way to achieve a successful career. The winner receives the title of knight and joins the ranks of the upper class. Noah will be the judge for this selection. This is convenient for him, because the winner of the selection will be the subordinate of the selection judge. Noah has a unique plus opportunity. It depends on the subordinates and people in the territory. It needs to be accumulated. Noah says he will do everything possible. In other words, if Noah has more subordinates, he himself will become stronger. The king said that they must make one decision. Choose the format of the event. The league and the tournament have completely different survival methods. The prince said that he needs all the qualifiers from the entire empire in the imperial city. It must be done in front of him. The king asked Noah why he needed this, surprised. Noah said that the empire was quite large and did not want to lose a talented warrior due to an accident. The emperor laughed and agreed to his son's terms, leaving the matter entirely under his control. After some time, Noah returned to his mansion. Zoe gives the prince a mug. In the large dining room, there is only Noah and two maids. The prince asks if Zoe has any candidates for the selection in her village. Smiling, the maid says that there is one candidate in her village. The prince recalls that he canceled the local qualification. After these words, Zoya became embarrassed. The prince asked her what happened. Zoya apologized. Noah told her to cut the mustard and lay it out as it was. Zoya agreed. She told him that the only applicant from her village would not be able to go due to lack of funds. Zoya said that everyone gathered in the village because the situation concerns one person. Zoya says that if everything goes well, she will be able to justify the hopes. After these words, she begins to obscure, saying that she will do everything possible. Noah thought about how someone's talent could be missed. Noah suggested getting rid of him. Zoe screamed in surprise. Noah said he could arrange everything necessary. Zoe objected that it would be expensive. Noah said he would do everything from scratch. He called his retinue. The prince ordered to find out how many empty houses there were in the city and buy them in different parts of the city. Noah added that if necessary, something like a dormitory could be built. Noah also said that there could be problems with food. Leaving the hall, Noah asked to warn the grain merchants about his imminent appearance in the capital. Zoya followed him with a joyful look, once again amazed by Noah. After a while, we see Noah walking around the square. He assumes that there will be no problems with food. Walking down the street, he thought that there might be talented people among them. Suddenly, a strange man in armor called out to Noah. Looking in the direction of the voice, he saw his brother. It was the 8th prince of the empire, Oscar Ararat. The people consider him the best of the princes. Oscar asked what Noah was doing. Noah replies that he is just walking down the street, in response to which Oscar offers to go with him to Cobalt Street. Noah agrees. The carriage with the 2 princes is going through the city. People are going to the 2 princes. On the way, Oscar says that his father constantly praises Noah and that he hasn't seen him so happy for a long time. Soon they arrived and continued walking. Oscar said that he often hunts for treasures here. Noah sees a wide street with a lot of stalls. Noah sees this street for the first time. All the antiques of the empire are collected on this street. Noah is worried about the prices in this area, but his brother says that 10,000 ren will be enough for a big deal. Noah thinks that this is not a small amount. He sees a street in front of him filled with all sorts of jewelry. They approach a stall with paintings. Noah is surprised by the presence of paintings in the market. Oscar claims that most of the paintings here are fakes. They walk around the shops, and Noah's attention is drawn to a strange book. He decides to buy it for 3 ren. Oscar was interested in his brother's purchase and took it to examine it closer. It turned out that this book was the original magic book of the great magician Andrea. Oscar advises his brother to take good care of the book. When Noah picked up the book, he realized that his wind ability had gained a plus ability. Noah is not sure if it can be called a treasure. Noah felt the sword vibrating and hesitated. When Oscar asked him what was wrong, Noah drew his sword and aimed it at the book. Surprised, Oscar called out to his brother. Noah realized that there was someone's soul in this book. A second later, the book opened and began to release a dark aura. The aura formed into a huge shadow with a trident, watching the prince. Oscar was very surprised and said that this forbidden book contains the soul of a man. Oscar shouted at Noah to run. This shadow was the vengeful spirit of the great wind mage. We see the doors leading to Noah's bedroom. 2 maids are nearby, bidding him good night. One maid tells 2 maids, Jessica and Lily, to take a bath. The maids obey their mistress. When Jessica and Lily were changing, Lily wondered what kind of guys Noah liked. Entering the baths, Jessica said that such things cannot be said. In response, Lily said that if they only think about it, nothing terrible will happen. Jessica guessed that since the gentleman was 6 years old, he was probably a type similar to Lily. Lily pouted. Lily asked if Jessica meant the girl's small form. Jessica began to explain that she didn't mean that, but Lily had already distanced herself. After that, Lily jumped on another maid from behind in the baths. After that, she expressed the opinion that Noah prefers girls like his mother. One of the maids says that, unexpectedly, Jessica's type is completely normal. The maid, arriving at the baths, inquired about the girls' conversation. Lily quickly turned her attention to Jessica, saying that her type was completely normal. Then the maids remembered Zoe. She met all of Noah's requirements, to which all the maids present agreed. The sound of the door opening was heard. Lily ran to meet the supposed Zoe. But when she ran to the door, she met the head maid. The head maid was angry with the behavior of her charges. She scolded the maids. After that, the 3 left the bathing suits, never finding Zoe lurking in the corner. Zoe was happy to comply with the master's preferences. Seeing the giant shadow in front of him, Noah did not lose his head. He swung and cut off the monster's head. After a few more swings, he completely destroyed the spirit. Oscar, who was watching everything, was very surprised. He asked his brother when he had become so strong. After the monster disappeared, Oscar was afraid for the safety of the city. Noah calmed him down, saying that the shot was upward. Oscar praised his brother for his good assessment of the situation. He also said that Noah could see his father's blood. From afar, someone addressed the princes. It was the shopkeeper. He saw what had happened and asked the brothers to look at something. Noah showed interest in the merchant's wares. The merchant replied that he had something of the sort. The trio set out on their journey. After some time, the brothers entered the house and went into a separate room, where they sat down at a table waiting for the store owner. Noah noticed the best hospitality a commoner could offer. Oscar noted his brother's attentiveness to such things. Soon the owner came in. He was holding a decorated box. Having appeared before the princes, he decided to introduce himself. His name was Alan Bardsley. He noted that he was delighted by Noah's feat. Noah said that he had brought the spirit upon himself. He decided to kill the monster to calm the people in the square. Alan noted the prince's modesty. After that, he opened the box, announcing to the princes that they would surely be able to solve its secret. The brothers noticed the object in Alan's hands. There was a ring in the box. Then the brothers realized what was in front of them. Alan said that he would show his true form if the real owner put it on. Noah assumed that Alan wanted to test whether he was the real owner. The merchant confirmed his words. Zaim Noah decided to try on the ring. Oscar doubted the authenticity of the product. Alan assumed this, but after the sale, the ring always returned to his shop before he knew about it. The brothers were interested in the find. Alan added that this was the reason he was sure that there was something wrong with the ring. Oscar nudged Noah to put the ring on. The hero reached for the ring and put it on his thumb. Suddenly, the ring began to glow. An unfamiliar voice came out of nowhere and announced the verification of the level and rarity limit. The ring's rarity was SSS. Noah was very surprised. He did not understand what kind of voice it was. A magic circle appeared around the ring, wrapping around Noah's hand. The ring confirmed the new owner and began the booking. The object turned into liquid and enveloped Noah's body. Oscar and Alan were very surprised by this. Armor began to form on Noah's body, and after a few seconds, full plate armor appeared on the young prince's body. Oscar, confused, said it was white armor. Noah looked in the mirror and checked the stats, but they hadn't changed at all. Noah expressed a desire to buy the ring. Alan happily accepted the offer. Noah informed him that he would pay later, but Oscar decided to pay for the ring himself. Oscar said it would be a gift from him. Oscar noted that after the magic sword, his brother got magic armor. The brothers left the Cobalt Street. In the carriage, Noah said that according to the connecting thoughts, he learned that the armor can be activated at will. Also, if the armor is damaged, but the ring is not, it can be restored. Oscar put his arm around Noah and said he had never heard anything like it before. The brothers remarked that Cobalt Street was indeed interesting. Having disembarked from the carriage, Noah wanted to say something to Oscar, but the eighth prince's attention was drawn to the brute rushing to kill his brother. The bull wanted to strike Noah in the neck from behind, but before the blade touched his neck, a shield jumped out of the ring. The shield absorbed the sword blow, and the brute was thrown to the ground and pinned down. Turning to face Noah's killer, he realized that it was the same brute who had attacked him in the tavern. Oscar was stunned when he saw the shield suddenly appear. He asked Noah about the shield that appeared out of nowhere. It turned out that Noah had linked Leviathan and the ring together, giving him automatic protection due to the blade's ability to sense hostility. Oscar was very surprised, but quickly came to his senses. He praised Noah for his amazing skills because his younger brother had already mastered these two artifacts. The next day in the prince's mansion, the prince is dressed by two maids. During this process, Noah thought about the fact that he will not meet the bandit who attacked him. After thinking about it, he decided to share the information with Alice. He went to the tavern where she worked. Arriving at the tavern, Noah remembered the wonderful talents of the singer. She was performing on stage when suddenly a drunkard jumped out of the crowd. He wanted Alice to pour him a drink and climbed onto the stage. Alice tried hesitantly to calm the drunkard down, but at the same time, another man from the crowd announced his intentions to drink the drink poured for her first. The two drunks started arguing and then started throwing punches at each other. But before their fists could collide, Noah jumped out. His automatic defense kicked in, protecting him from the blows. At the same moment, the men who had hit the iron with all their might began to scream. The drunks started shouting at the prince, who immediately pulled out his sword and stripped the wallpaper freaks of their clothes. The two guys retreated from the tavern. The tavern patrons were delighted with the prince's performance. They noted his outstanding swordsmanship. The prince inquired about Alice's health, when suddenly a tavern employee ran out of the crowd. He was in a hurry to apologize to the prince for such incidents in his presence. Noah ordered that such customers not be allowed in. The employee replied that this was impossible since it was precisely such customers who supported their bar. Noah didn't lose his head and decided to buy the entire store, thereby stunning the employee with his decision. The prince handed the employee a bag containing 1,000 ren to buy the store on the condition that such incidents would not happen there again. Alice thanked Noah and asked what she could do to pay off the debt. In response, Noah told her to just keep singing. Noah told her of his hopes for her future and wished her to become a better person. Alice offered the prince another song as a token of gratitude, to which Noah agreed without hesitation. Alice gathered her strength and sang as she had never done before. She amazed both the audience and the master with her singing. In an instant, she became better. The whole audience began to rejoice. A voice coming from the stairs asked the prince if this was part of his power. The prince turned and saw Byron. He confirmed that the girl could now respond to Noah. The prince agreed with him. They left the tavern and went for a walk around the city. The prince asked Byron what he was doing in such an establishment. Byron replied that he was just passing by. Noah saw through the lie, arguing that successful merchants would not waste their time. This astounded Byron. He confirmed the prince's words. In fact, Byron wanted to talk to Noah. He told him that this year it was time to hire new servants for the palace. Once a year, the imperial palace receives a large number of maids. If His Majesty takes a liking to one, they will be ordered to stay overnight. This is their chance to become a concubine. The prince guessed Byron's intentions to send the woman to the palace. He confirmed Noah's guess. For Byron, this is a way to get an informant in the palace, especially since he has already sent money to the mansion. Noah made a condition that he would accept the girl if he liked her. Byron thanked him heartily and promised to choose a girl that the prince liked. The prince once again stated the seriousness of his statements. The merchant said it was like a worker who developed in an instant. The gentleman confirmed his words and informed him of the infinite number of attempts. Byron thanked him. The prince asked if Byron had any further questions. Byron asked permission to use the prince's coat of arms on his sign. The prince agreed, but mentioned that he would not tolerate betrayal. At this moment, Noah's characteristics, intelligence, and spirit status were assigned plus. Noah thought that increasing the number of subordinates would increase his strength, but at that moment, Noah noticed that his status as E+S water was gradually disappearing. The prince suspected that the incident in Almeria was due to his subordinate. We see Prince Noah and his maid running somewhere. It turned out that she was running to the exit of the mansion. He ordered the servants to prepare a carriage for him to visit the emperor. The maids hurried to carry out the prince's order. A serious-minded Noah got into the carriage and headed towards his father. We see the emperor's garden. Noah kneeled before his father and reported the incident. The emperor asked how Noah knew about it. Noah was surprised that his father knew about the incident. The emperor replied that he had understood it by looking at the signs, at which point a servant approached him and gave him some information. Noah confirmed his fears. The emperor praised his son for his resourcefulness and told him about the rebellion in Almeria. Noah assumed that the rebellion was the incident. The emperor asked his son his opinion on the scale of the rebellion. Noah suggested that the scale of the rebellion was small, given that his water status had changed from E+SS to E+S. The emperor confirmed his answer by saying that at the moment there were about 5,000 rebels. Noah was convinced that his answer was correct. The emperor asked him if he could solve the problem on his own. The prince thought about it. He replied that he could not solve the problem. The son's answer surprised the emperor. Noah argued that he lacked experience. He didn't even know the battlefield, which is why the soldiers might simply disobey him. The prince suggested sending one of his brothers to do this. The emperor noted his surprise at this answer, but agreed with the wisdom of this decision. He asked his son who would be best to send. Noah put forward Henry as a candidate. Due to the scale of the operation, cunning plans are not required. And he also noted Henry's caution around the other brothers. The king smiled and agreed with his son's choice, noting his wonderful choice. After a while, we see a carriage moving. Henry and Noah are sitting in it. Henry asked his brother if he was sure about his decision to give him the initiative. He specified that military achievements would play into his hands in the future. He also mentioned his magic sword. Noah replied that one cannot lead soldiers without knowledge. Noah will not die in the battle, but many of his soldiers may die. Henry was surprised by his brother's prudence, noting how carefully he had thought through the situation. Henry said he would deal with the enemy's cavalry and clear his brother's lands. Noah learned that the enemy had a lot of cavalry. Suddenly, Leviathan began to signal to its owner, which greatly surprised Noah. The prince opened the doors and ordered the carriage to stop. The driver braked sharply. Henry asked his brother in surprise what had happened. Noah replied that Leviathan had started giving him signals, which meant that they were about to be attacked. Noah jumped out of the carriage, saying that he couldn't involve Henry in this. As he jumped out, Noah noticed that a magic circle had formed to his right. After that, the circle lit up and began to emit bright magical rays towards the prince. Henry was very scared for his brother. The beams formed into a grid and shot towards Noah, forming a sphere of shields around the prince. Henry was very surprised to see this. Noah repelled the magical attack. The young prince realized that this attack was organized by the rebels. Even if you are 6, as long as you are a lord, you will be the target of someone. The attackers surrounded the prince from all sides and then rushed at their target at once. Noah managed to react and struck all the attackers. The defeated opponents fell to the ground, recognizing the prince's strength. Henry was surprised by this outcome. Henry got out of the carriage, noting his brother's extraordinary strength. The brother was interested in Noah's ability to summon a shield. Noah replied that he got this ability because of a ring he bought on Cobalt Street. It is compatible with Leviathan, so he uses them together. Henry was amazed by his brother's answer. As he approached the attackers, Henry noted that Noah had killed them, so they would not be able to capture them. Noah contradicted his brother's words, which greatly surprised Henry. After this, Henry was convinced of Noah's words, having examined the bodies of the rebels. Noah said that they fainted from Leviathan's intentions, noting the sword's ability to negatively affect unprepared people. This greatly surprised and delighted Henry. Now he would be able to beat all the necessary information out of the attackers. After some time, we see Byron Allen addressing Noah. He finds out why His Highness needed him. Noah, sitting opposite him with a cup of tea, replied that Byron had an assignment. He asked if he was doing business near Almeria. Byron confirmed his words. Then the prince ordered the purchase of horse feed for 10,000 ren, which he prepared in a separate suitcase. Byron was concerned about the prince's decision to buy food at this time. Noah replied that he was doing so because he was afraid of a leak due to the rebellion in Almeria. Byron is perplexed. Noah informed the merchant that the rebels are good on horses. Hearing this, Byron remembered Mr. Calhoun. Noah added that this was necessary to neutralize their cavalry, to create a deficit. Byron agreed, asking whether he should buy up all the human food. Byron offered Noah to trust him with a hoard of human food. The prince refused, which upset Byron. Byron wanted to know the reason for the refusal. Noah added that feed for the horses needs to be purchased from outside, since there is a limit to theft from local residents. Then the merchant realized that the soldiers' rations could be used to loot, unlike horse feed. Noah confirmed his guess. Byron noted the prince's prudence and set about the task. He took the suitcase with the money and left the room. The prince was left alone with a cup of tea. Noah thought that this would ease his brother's situation a little. After a while, we see the imperial garden. The emperor called Noah to him to tell him about the plans of the attackers. They wanted to catch Noah and use him for their own purposes. Noah pointed out that this could be a lie. The father turned to his son and praised his intelligence. The emperor said there is a way to find out if the tortured person is telling the truth. The way of the snake is the snake. Noah knows nothing about torture, so he can only accept it as it is. The emperor praised Noah for being stingy with the horse feed and for not being captured. Noah was dumbfounded. His father had found out about his actions again. The emperor said that anyone can make a siege, but take into account the territory and make a siege only on horses, and not everyone is capable of doing it on their own territory. Noah was surprised and thanked his father. The emperor decided to reward the prince. But money would be too vulgar, so he called crews. The man from the bushes responded to the call of the ruler. The emperor ordered one sword to be attached to the coat of arms of Noah. The prince was very surprised. The empire is a country of warriors. Adding a sword to the coat of arms is only possible with the permission of the emperor. For violating this law, the defendant will be accused of blasphemy or executed. This is the highest degree of honor. The emperor smiled. Noah thanked his father for this. The emperor asked how Noah would choose a knight. Noah replied that he already had a plan. The prince asked permission to demonstrate his method right in the garden. The father gave his consent. The hero sat down at the table and began to drink tea, and the father's servants stood around him with buckets in their hands. The emperor sat on the throne and watched his son with anticipation. The prince gave permission for the start. The servants took turns splashing water on the prince. This greatly surprised the king. At that moment, the ring began to glow and shields began to appear around the prince. The shields completely protected the air. He calmly sipped his tea. The emperor smiled. Noah said that in the elections the man will also attack him, and depending on how far they go, the prince's decision will depend. The emperor ordered the selection to be moved to a place where it would be easier to endure the lengthy process. The emperor became worried because it could be dangerous if a husband were found who would break through the protection. Noah replied that he was ready for that. This surprised his father. He smiled. The father praised his son. After a while, we see Noah's mansion. The prince returns home where he is greeted by a servant and informed of Byron's arrival. Byron bows and greets the prince. Noah notices that Byron managed to return early. In response, the merchant said that the amount of processed food was limited, so it was quite easy to buy it. Suddenly, a maid bursts into the room and addresses the prince. Noah gives permission to enter. The maid informs him that there is a wounded man standing at the main gate. He came from Almeria with an urgent report. This surprised the prince and Byron. Noah ran towards the gate. The merchant followed him. A wounded soldier stood up in front of them. The soldier said that he was the captain of a detachment of 10 men in the province of Adora in Almeria. The soldier reported that his superiors in Almeria had started a rebellion. Byron thought that this information was useless to Noah, since he already knew about it. The prince listened to the soldier and ordered him to be cured. Noah also wanted to give a reward of 500 ren, but gave a reward of 1,000 ren. This surprised Byron greatly. He asked Noah's motive. They began to walk back to the mansion. Byron said that the soldier's information was useless, to which the prince unequivocally agreed. In response, the hero said that he must reward the soldier for his loyalty. He had delivered the news despite the danger. Byron said it was quite a large sum. Noah thought about it and said he thought it was worth it. After a while, we see the prince's mansion. Zoe walks down the hallway in horror. She approaches Noah's door and asks for permission to enter. The prince gives his consent. Zoe enters the prince's office. The prince turns his gaze to her and asks what happened. He notices Zoe's strange behavior. She falls to her knees, which alarms the prince. She shows him a strange bag. The prince is perplexed. Opening Noah's bag, he sees money. The amount in a bag is 500 ren. Zoe says that the bag was given to her by a stranger. Then Zoe showed a small bag, for the delivery of which to the gentleman she would receive such a reward. Noah took the bag in his hands. Zoe said it was a sleeping pill. Noah asked the stranger's plan. He assumed that he wanted to put the prince to sleep. Zoe confirmed his words. Noah suggested that they could be rebels. This means that they are extremely interested in the prince. Noah asked Zoe why she brought him the bag. In response, the maid said that she could not betray her master after his help to the village. Zoe added that if she did not carry out the stranger's order, he would kill her. She cried and said that she could not betray the prince. The prince heard her words. Noah turned to the table and wrote a letter, which he then handed to the maid. Noah said it was a reward. Noah gave 5,000 ren as a reward for loyalty. Zoe was very surprised when she heard the amount. She opposed the prince's decision, saying that she could not take such money for herself. The prince insisted on his own. Zoe agreed and thanked the prince. Afterwards, Noah added that he wanted Zoe to carry out one of his assignments. The maid agreed, saying she was ready for anything. The prince said he was going to take a sleeping pill. He ordered Zoe to hand the prince over to his captors after he lost consciousness. Zoe was very surprised. The prince added that after this, Zoe would have to run away and hide. They would definitely try to shut her mouth. The maid did not understand the master's intentions. During the night, the prince woke up. He smelled hay and discovered that his hands were tightly tied with a rope. The bound Noah realized that the strangers speaking were men. He assumed that they would not hear what was about to happen. The prince made sure that he was tied up and then hit his head hard on the hay. A small black stone fell out of the prince's ear. At that moment, the stone turned into a demonic blade. Noah realized that his weapon had been taken, but the ring remained with him. The prince pressed himself to the sword and used the power of the ring. After this, his bonds were torn, freed. Noah realized that he was not in a building, but in a cart. The prince clutched his sword and commanded Leviathan to show his memory. We see the prince sleeping in his office, and a bunch of strangers running down the hallway. The crowd surrounded the prince and began to tie up his body. The kidnappers were in a hurry, mentioning that the distance to Almeria was considerable. Zoe ran away from the prince's office. They were worried about Zoe's disappearance, but decided not to waste their time on her. After this, the prince was placed in the cart, and it moved off. Realizing what had happened, Noah was about to get up. The prince stood in front of the kidnappers, who were sitting by the fire. The bandits were surprised by this outcome of events and doubted the strength of the ropes. Noah jumped off the cart and stood face to face with his enemies. The kidnappers began to draw their swords. At that very moment, Noah rushed towards his enemies. He delivered a series of quick and deep blows to the kidnappers. They were shocked by the prince's powers. Within moments, Noah had defeated every enemy standing before him. Turning to face the kidnappers, Noah said that it was a waste of time. He was angry at the fact that they tried to bribe his servants. Noah noticed a squad of soldiers patrolling in the night. Among them was Zoe, who called out to the master. Noah asked Zoe about her plans, and she replied that she was worried and asked the soldiers for help. However, the prince had already dealt with the enemies, surprising the maid. The protagonist turned to the soldiers and asked which of them was the captain. The squad captain introduced himself and said that he was glad to meet the gentleman. The prince ordered the squad to search the kidnappers and report if they found anything of value. The squad began searching the bodies. A mysterious black dagger fell from one of the bandits. Noah noticed it. After that, one of the soldiers reached for this blade. Noah shouted at the soldier not to touch the dagger. The prince watched the blade in amazement. This was the dagger the man had spoken of. Noah felt a huge killing intent. Through Leviathan, he realized the power of the curse. This is the magic of cursing with human thoughts. The prince kept his eyes on the blade, and suddenly an idea came to him. The entire squad and Zoe watched Noah. The prince stood in front of the dagger and asked if the Leviathan could do it. Leviathan answered the prince. Then he ordered the sword to act. The companions did not understand what was happening. The sword in Noah's hands began to glow, which confused Zoe and the squad. The light from the sword went into the sky. Noah and the people watched what would happen next. The light took the form of an arc and continued to fly. After some time, we see the imperial palace and garden. Noah came to visit the emperor. The emperor was glad to see his son, which confused the prince. The emperor leaned over to Noah and praised him for his good work. The prince thanked him. Then his father said that Baker was the leader of the rebels. We see the light released by Noah's blade pierce the head of a soldier on horseback. It turns out that the prince's attack transformed into a column of water and pierced Baker's head. Noah is glad that Leviathan's super long-range attack succeeded. The dagger was aimed with malice at someone with equally strong malice. The rebels of Almeria lost their leader. The rebels were suppressed by his brother Henry. We see the throne room. An unknown man is reading a report on the capture of the rebels. The man asked for His Majesty's consent. The emperor sat on the throne opposite the man. On either side sat the nobles, among whom was Noah. The emperor, with a serious face, gave the order to prepare horses to cleanse the entire clan. All present supported the ruler's decision. The emperor wanted to ask Noah for something, but the prince came out in front of his father and bowed his head. Noah said that he had to refuse. This shocked his father. All the people present in the hall were surprised by the prince's words. The emperor decided to clarify Noah's intentions. Noah replied that punishment should be only for compliance with the law. According to the law of the empire, the organizer of the rebellion is executed. The third degree and conspirators are hanged until a higher degree is assigned. Noah added that the emperor's violation of the law would cause concern among the people and asked for the decision to be reconsidered. The entire hall was horrified. The emperor exhaled and said that Noah was right. The hall looked at the emperor with relief. The father praised the prince for noticing the mistake. The emperor added that a light punishment would not satisfy him. The punishment must be the heaviest within the law and must not be subject to revision. Noah looked at his father with a smile. The hall began to praise the prince for his courage and attentiveness. The emperor was pleased. He decided to reward Noah for preventing the mistake. Those present received the news with joy. The prince looked at his father in surprise. The emperor clapped his hands and decided to give Noah a title. The emperor said that his son could only protest against his decisions, but this showed his independent qualities. He added that the whole world should learn of his wisdom. The emperor solemnly approached the prince and awarded him the title of wise. The entire hall responded positively to this news. Those present began to praise the prince. Noah checked his characteristics. His status received the title of wise. Noah thanked his father for the gift. The emperor looked at him with a sad smile. The emperor was sad that Noah was born so late. There was a noise coming from the entrance to the hall. Noah and everyone present looked in the direction of the noise. A few weeks later, we see a sign for a horse street. Noah is sitting on a chair, drinking tea. A huge warrior strikes the prince with his sword, but the shield blocks the blow. We are witnessing a knightly selection. The warrior is thrown back. The warrior does not give up and swings again. He hit the shield again. The people watch the spectacle. They understand that the warrior's attacks are unsuccessful. We see the prince's assistant appear in the arena. He calls out the next challenger. The huge warrior leaves the stage. A middle-aged man appears on the training ground. He stands firmly and points his hands at the prince. The man releases a huge stream of flame from his hands. The audience is shocked. A huge clot of flame hits the prince. Despite the strong magical attack, the prince sits in place. He is not touched by the participants' fire. The audience is very surprised that the prince resisted such an attack. Noah says that he has not met worthy participants yet. We see a girl in armor running to attack the prince. Noah watches her calmly. The girl's thrust hits the shield. A crack appears in the shield. The girl puts forth all her efforts. The audience awaits the outcome. Noah is surprised. The shield breaks completely. The girl's blow reaches the prince. Blood and shield fragments fly in all directions. The girl wounds the prince in the shoulder. The sword does not go deep. Noah calmly looks at the wound. The warrior is very surprised by the outcome. She abruptly removes her hands from the sword, realizing that she has wounded the prince. The participant is pulled away by two men, holding her in front of the prince. The sword remains in the hero's shoulder. The prince gets up from his chair and tells the girl that she has passed. Noah begins to pull the sword out of the body. The girl is held on her knees before the master. The participant was very surprised, not understanding what was happening. She looked at Noah in bewilderment. The prince orders the girl to be released. The aides who captured her doubt Noah's decision, arguing that she has wounded his highness. The crowd is shocked. The prince orders her release. The guards release the girl. The girl hesitantly tries to answer his highness. Noah clarifies that he did not say what the passing score is. Regardless of this, Noah decides to designate the girl's performance as the passing score. The crowd is perplexed. The spectators are surprised that the condition for passing is to damage the prince. They understand that the person who injured his shoulder has great potential. The girl has not yet come to her senses. After a while, we see the prince's mansion. The doctor is bandaging his highness's wound. Zoya is standing nearby. The participant who wounded him is standing in front of the prince. The prince tells her to say her name. His wound is being treated. The girl standing in front of him hesitates and apologizes. She sat down on her knees and bowed her head. The girl's name was Charlie Grants. The prince was interested in her armor and asked if she had made it herself. The girl answered in the negative. She told the prince that the armor she wore was passed down from generation to generation. The girl feels awkward. She remembers that she harmed his highness. The prince only sighed understandingly. Noah tells Charlie that she is not guilty of anything, because it was he who ordered it. The girl wanted to object, but the prince interrupted her. Noah added that if he wanted to prevent it, he would have done so. He believes it was just an accident. He needed to find someone with enough attack power, someone who would pierce even the prince on command. Charlie was surprised that the prince did not consider his own danger. She focused and took a firm position in front of the prince. Charlie Grants looked at the prince and swore eternal allegiance to his imperial highness. She bowed her head and stood on one knee in front of the wounded prince. After that, Noah checked his stats. He was convinced of something. The prince realized that he had received more increases in his abilities from Charlie than from anyone else. The doctor expressed a desire to say something. The physician said that, fortunately, the bones were not affected. The attack only damaged the muscles. This is Gudo Croy, the physician of His Imperial Majesty. All that remains for him is to stitch up the wounds. The prince looked at the doctor and gave his consent to stitch up the wounds. Gudo Croy set to work. Charlie was very surprised. The prince asked his subordinate what was wrong. Charlie replied that she was impressed that wounds could be healed in this way. There was no doctor in her village. Noah was slightly surprised. He asked Charlie about the sick and wounded in her village. Charlie told him that they asked Miss Opabu to pray if any of the villagers are sick. Gudo added that this was common in poor villages. Noah looked at the doctor and asked how one could become a doctor. Guto replied that one could become a student of a practicing doctor. He continued stitching up the wound. The prince became silent and then turned to Charles. Charlie was waiting for his highness to act. Noah told Charlie that he needed a child from her lineage. He demanded that she bring him a child who would try his best. Charlie looked at him in bewilderment, agreed and decided to ask why the prince needed this. Noah looked at Gudo and asked him if he could take on some students. Gudo answered the prince's question positively. Charlie stood up and wondered in bewilderment why his highness needed this. Noah began to get up from his chair. Noah turned his gaze to Charlie and said that he would pay for his tuition and living expenses. The prince ordered Charlie to bring someone who had a strong desire to become a doctor. Charlie was very surprised. He thought that then everyone in her village would be able to get medical help if needed. Charlie immediately fell to her knees before the prince. She began to cry and thanked His Highness. A few days later, we see Noah walking around the market accompanied by Charlie. Charlie is very interested in walking around the city. We see the sign of Alan's shop. The prince enters the shop to see the merchant. They pour him some tea, and he sits down at the table. Opposite him stands Alan. Alan, rubbing his hands, asked if Noah was looking for a gift for His Majesty the Fourth Prince. Noah confirmed Alan's words. Prince Noah remembers that his brother, the fourth prince, suppressed the rebellion in his place. Alan clapped his hands, and a male silhouette appeared at the entrance to the room. Alan informed the prince that he had just recently acquired a couple of new things. A man entered the room carrying a painting of a woman. Then two men entered the room with a cart. After them, a girl entered the room with a box in her hands. We see a beautiful statue of a woman entwined with vines. On her head is a crown of flowers, and behind her back are crystals. Noah was surprised to see the sculpture. He asked Alan what it was. The prince immediately noticed that glass was used in the statue instead of crystal. Alan noticed the prince's attentiveness. This statue was left by the famous Lindsay. Lindsay was the only one who could make a statue out of glass. Now it is a lost skill. Noah was very surprised. He did not know that a statue could be made of glass. Alan added that there were only 2 statues of glass goddesses in the whole world. The prince decided to buy it without hesitation. Alan rubbed his hands and named its price at 10,000 ren. Noah handed Alan the bag, saying that it contained more than 10,000 ren. He added that it was a reward for helping him choose a gift for his brother. The merchant accepted the bag and thanked the prince. Prince Oscar suddenly entered the room. He was glad to see Noah. The brothers looked at each other in surprise. Oscar walked closer to the statue of the goddess Lindsay. He asked Alan if it was a real statue. Alan confirmed his words. He also added that he would not offer a fake to His Highness. Oscar became sad. He didn't know that there were 2 statues. Noah asked his brother if he knew where the second statue was. Oscar replied that he had the second statue. The value of a treasure increases with its rarity. If there are 2, the value is completely different. Prince Noah looked at the sculpture. The protagonist grabbed the statue and raised it above himself. Alan and Charlie looked at the prince and were very surprised, not understanding what was happening. Noah threw the statue on the floor. The statue of the goddess Lindsay broke. This left Alan and Charlie in shock. Noah reassured Alan by saying that he could keep the money he had received earlier. He took the bag in his hands and told the merchant that it was his salary. Alan looked at the prince in bewilderment. He did not fully understand the meaning of his words. Noah looked at Alan and said that the second goddess statue had just come out, but it had already broken. Noah expressed his desire to spread rumors about Cobalt Street. Alan and Shirley looked at Noah in surprise. Prince Oscar had figured out his little brother's plan. Oscar said that his statue would definitely increase in value. Oscar was amazed by his brother's actions. Noah said that if the treasure is found, it will be good, but not for its creators. He added that the value will increase if the treasure is only in the possession of his brother Oscar. Oscar scratched his head and admitted that he wasn't as smart when he was Noah's age. He only learned that kind of knowledge after he became an adult. Oscar turned around and said he would thank his brother later. Noah told Alan that they now had to pick out a gift for Henry again. Alan replied that he had plenty more in stock. After some time, Noah and Shirley left the store. They are walking along the city streets again. Shirley reminded him that the statue was a treasure and asked the prince why he had broken it. In response, Noah said that, after all, it was just a thing. He added that real treasure is not like that. Not understanding the intent of his words, Shirley looked at the prince in surprise. Noah opened his stat panel and asked what the real treasure was. Shirley looked at the prince with interest. Noah added that the real treasures were people. People like Shirley. Shirley was very surprised by the prince's words and looked at him, asking him to repeat his words. Noah answered that only people are treasures. Shirley's eyes lit up. She was impressed by the prince's words. Shirley said that he would follow Her Highness for the rest of his life. Noah moved on, and Shirley sped up to keep up. The prince accepted her words, thinking to himself that by then, he would be an adult and enter these lands as a lord. After some time, a new day. Morning. The sun has already risen and marks a new day. Prince Noah's maid wishes him good morning, bowing politely. The protagonist wakes up and after a while comes out of his chambers, opening the door. He passed by his two maids. 12-year-old Prince Noah began his breakfast, patiently waiting for the maids to serve the dishes. One girl, busy with the preparations, was distracted by the panorama outside the window, attracting the attention of the young master. Among the crowd in the garden, the prince noticed a worried girl, asking her name and the reason for her concern. The maid called her Gigi, and Noah thoughtfully repeated the name, carefully examining his interlocutor. Gigi explained that the line of gifts for His Highness' birthday was still there 3 days later. The maid behind the prince said that last year the line lasted all week, surprising Gigi at the window. She was delighted by this, and at that very moment she was called out and told that she had to work. The Ministry of Military Affairs. The entrance to the building was blocked by a barred gate and a brick wall. Noah walked along the long corridors of the ministry. Having received an invitation from the head of the military department, Henry, Noah was summoned there. The elder brother took over the post after the events in Almeria, and Noah himself was exalted by the emperor for his possession of the sword Leviathan. The hero needs to talk to this minister of military affairs, so he comes to the door of the minister's room and reports that he has arrived. Henry greeted the prince in a friendly manner, as did the man in armor next to him, who also bowed. Looking at Keki, Noah remembered. The brave officer who passed the nightly competition successfully commanded the 2nd Division of the Imperial Army under the leadership of Brother Henry. Henry explained that he wanted to hear Noah's opinion of His Majesty's order, which was for Rice to lead a second army and crush the barbarians on the southern border. The 4th Prince argued for the need to demonstrate force to the southern barbarians by sending a second army. Noah nodded approvingly, agreeing with the tactical decision, which drew attentive glances from Henry and Rice. Noah demanded from Rice the exact number of the army. The shocked general clarified the question, supported by the surprised Henry. But without waiting for an answer, he stood up and asked Rice what the man was hiding. The man immediately fell to his knees and bowed to the floor. Henry glared at his subordinate, but Noah stopped him, explaining the army's financing system and the absence of significant violations. Having acknowledged his brother's rightness, Henry listened attentively to Noah's explanation of the fictitious registration of civilians and merchants from nearby settlements as soldiers, which allowed them to appropriate army funds. Understanding the threat, Rice humbly asked for forgiveness. An indignant Henry moved towards the offender, but Noah again put his brother in his place. Calming his subordinate, the responsibility lies with the commander. It is not his fault. Rice raised his head silently, and Noah continued to convince the man that everything was fine because the nominal numbers would be a deterrent. Henry looked at his brother again, beginning to understand his plan, and said that it was true, because sometimes it was better to say it was a large army of 100,000. Noah said with a smile that that was exactly what he wanted to convey. Henry confirmed his understanding of his brother's position. After hearing this, Noah asked Rice about the size of the army needed for a decisive victory. The frightened official reported the presence of 2,000 warriors. The hero said that before sending Rice, make sure that he has replenished the number of real soldiers in the army. Rice nodded and said that he understood perfectly and would do everything immediately. Noah asked Henry for writing materials and upon receiving them, sat down at the table and handed the writing to Rice, who was humbly awaiting instructions. The curious official inquired about the contents of the message. Noah explained that he needed to take it to the Treasury Department and that it was for further miscellaneous expenses for 2,000 people he would personally give them. Rice was amazed, looking up at the 13th Prince, and Noah ordered him to simply take it in exchange, to win, after which Rice nodded and agreed and left under the gaze of the princes. Henry exhaled and told Noah that he used combinations of reward and punishment well. The carriages drive alongside. From the window, Henry reminds Noah of his lack of combat experience. Nodding silently, the younger brother becomes lost in thought. Looking at the statistics improved by the efforts of his subordinates, Noah was only worried about the stagnation of his own level of development, which remained unchanged at the age of 12. The children of emperors are immediately given to servants, deprived of breastfeeding and exposed to the risk of disease and poisoning. To preserve the succession, princes are forbidden to participate in battles without special permission. Henry told Noah that he was already 12 years old, so he thought Noah should experience real war before he became lord of the lands. Noah replied that if His Majesty allowed him, he was always ready. The fourth prince pointed out that since Noah had a magic sword, it shouldn't be too difficult. The hero asked Henry when his first battle was. Henry, slightly lost in thought, did not have time to answer about when his first battle was, because the driver of the cart suddenly pulled the reins and stopped. Henry was puzzled by the sudden stop of the carriage when a child's cry for help came from the mud. The girl bowed low to the carriages, attracting the attention of Noah, who looked out of the window, raising her eyes to the prince's. The girl saw her poor peers running towards her, followed by respectable men, reproaching the girl for worrying. The men grabbed the children by their hair, necks, or arms, and wanted to drag them back. The residents looked on indifferently, although they felt sorry for the children. The main character got out of the carriage and ordered the men to stop. They didn't know he was a prince and told the guy to get lost. However, Noah came closer to them and asked them about registration. The men didn't understand him. Noah, pressing the men about their paperwork and the store, reminded them that trading without a license was a criminal offense. The menacingly looking suspects heard the warning. The men, very angry, climbed on the prince with fists and a knife, wanting to kill the impudent guy. However, Noah summons his magical sword Leviathan from the bracelet, grabbing it with his hand. Then he rushes forward and makes a swift cut, and, without losing speed, he also hits the other men nearby with a magic sword, holding children. Praising Noah for his clever takedown of the criminals, Henry joined the crowd in their excitement as they wondered about the source of the teenager's talent. The children were shocked. Checking on the well-being of the girl, who was crying with happiness, Noah asked the group if the men were selling illegal goods. Having received an affirmative answer, the prince nodded with satisfaction. Then a man came out of a dark alley and said that he had finally found the children. The fourth prince and the girls looked at him and were very scared. He took off his hood and said that he was glad to meet His Highness, the wise prince. Staring at the suspect, Noah demanded to know his identity. The stranger evasively replied that he was a child services provider, refusing to reveal his name. The fourth prince clarified the reason for his secrecy. The man replied that everything was because he was the property of His Highness the first prince. Noah asked the man again if he was really the property of the first prince, looking him seriously in the eyes. The children stood excitedly around the hero. Noah says there are too many people here. Looking back, Noah asked Henry about the stranger. After a pause, the older brother admitted that he did not know the man, confirming his ignorance to the youngest prince himself. The man put his hand on his chest and said that it was natural, and before he could finish speaking, Noah used magic that caused the man to fall to the ground. Henry was surprised by this turn of events, and Noah asked the whole street how this man dared to pretend to be the servant of the first prince, and if others could believe it, then he and his brother certainly could not. The locals were puzzled as to whether the prince in front of them was real, but a doubtful neighbor explained. He was the patron of the famous singer Alice, and therefore a fake. Pleased with the outcome of the conversation, Noah ordered that the deceivers be detained and that his older brother be warned, paying attention to the shocked children. Passing by, Noah instructed the driver to bring the children temporarily to the residence, postponing questions. Later, approaching Henry, he heard praise for the skill of resolving the situation and approved of his own success. Noah acknowledged the merchant's dependence on his brother, fearing to cause offense by interfering. He added that the merchant was engaged in illegal business, and it was wiser to consider the situation a fake and leave the problem to his brother. Henry noted with admiration that the 13th prince's actions were always unexpected and surprising. After some time, evening came. The prince's estate. Noah and Henry were having dinner at the table opposite each other, and the maids were standing nearby. The butler came up to Noah and whispered the news in his ear, after which Noah told him that he could go. Henry looked at Noah, and the boy explained that he had been told news by the first prince, Gilbert's brother. Henry asked what she had said. The information conveyed stated that the arrested businessman had used Gilbert's name, and upon learning of this, the prince intended to bring him to court, but the detainee took his own life as soon as the prince turned away. Henry looked down and nodded understandingly. Noah and Henry fell silent. They knew that man was a treasure, and they had one thought in their heads: a lizard without a tail. Noah asked if the counterfeit merchant had carried out his brother's orders. Agreeing, Henry recalled Gilbert's constant commercial endeavors: stores, real estate, show projects. Noah replied that there was nothing to be done about it then, and the fourth prince asked what he meant. Noah revealed that his elder brother, Gilbert, the son of a concubine, was unable to inherit the throne, expressing dissatisfaction with business and land ownership. The explanation left Henry in utter amazement. He said that Noah even knew this and that he was amazing. Noah replied that there was nothing wrong with that, because it could be understood with a little thought. But Henry replied that this was not the case. He added that it was bad food, but thanks to Noah, he was saved a little. They parted. After some time, in the room of the residence, Noah, sitting opposite the children and accompanied by a knight, assured the little ones that he had provided for their future by giving them freedom. The children were very surprised and began to look at each other tensely. Noah, noticing their behavior, asked if they had anywhere to go. The girl answered that they had nowhere. They began to explain in turn that one of them was sent to a bad place for rice, another was sent to pay for his mother's funeral, and the third to reduce the number of mouths to feed. Noah thought about how they had no place to go back to because they might be sent to a bad place again if they went back. After thinking for a while, Noah stood up and addressed his butler Dylan, while the children looked sadly at the floor. The 13th prince announced the admission of orphans in need of housing and work, encouraging those who were able to study. The butler accepted the order. The girl timidly asked if the prince was acquiring them. The guy sat down and said that they could stay, but if they wanted, they could leave. But he also added that he would never take back a person who had once left, and this meant that he would not tolerate traitors. The girl looked at Noah in surprise, and he wondered if this was too cruel. With a smile, the butler Dylan urged the children to try honestly, without betrayal, expressing gratitude to the prince. Bowing, the children followed him, and Noah called Evelyn. After some time, the maid Evelyn came, and Noah handed her a paper envelope saying that it was for her. The girl took the envelope and asked what it was. Noah explained that it was a resignation and that she was now the governor of a small land in Almeria. The girl was shocked by this news, repeating the word governor, and Noah added that she was now an official. The land given by His Majesty is vast, so a governor can be sent to rule in His Highness's name. From a maid to a governor, that would be a great career advancement. Evelyn, recognized by Noah as the most intelligent maid, sheepishly refused the promotion, preferring to serve the owner. Despite the girl's trepidation, Noah convinced her to develop her abilities by simplifying the management of the house. But Noah said that she should boldly go and work for him. The girl replied with a smile that she understood his desire perfectly well and left, clutching the envelope to her chest. The knight, who had been standing behind the prince the whole time, remarked that this was surprising. Noah asked what exactly she was talking about. The night girl spoke about His Highness the First Prince and his use of servants. But Noah interrupted Charlie and said that she couldn't say such things. Charlie immediately bowed, saying she was sorry, and then looked up and still thought it was amazing. At the reception before the emperor, who sat on the throne, Noah was praised for defending Gilbert's honor. Kneeling, Noah modestly called it an accident. Reflecting on his brother's message, Noah considered it acceptable to admit the facts of smuggling. To the emperor's clarifying question about the guilt of the sellers and accomplices, Noah replied, "The first will face amputation of hands. The second, a military trial." The emperor turned to the first chancellor and asked if this was true. The man answered the emperor that His Highness the Fourth Prince had spoken the truth. The emperor thought about it and asked Noah if there were any injuries, because he heard that someone had attacked him. Noah replied that he had managed to dodge. The emperor noted that if he were the victim, the offender would have time to kill him while they were deciding on the presentation. The chancellor emphasized that such an act would be classified as grave sacrilege, punishable by death. Noah pointed out that under imperial law, a charge of contempt could only be brought after the identity of the victim had been established. Therefore, the incident should be treated as a simple beating. The statement caused general shock and silence in the hall. Noah regretted the harshness of his speech, thinking of softening the accusations, but the emperor's laughter eased the situation. Breaking the general silence, he then turned to the chancellor and asked how he felt and whether he had won the bet. The first chancellor agreed with a smile and said that he was now convinced himself. Noah was amazed and asked what they meant. The emperor explained to Noah that he had made a bet with the first chancellor as to whether Noah could speak only in accordance with the law. The hesitant hero wondered about the meaning of the test. Until the emperor explained, the prince's principle of strictly observing the law has long been known, so the test became a test of this trait, after which the man stood up and, turning to Noah, declared that in the name of the emperor he was appointing Noah Ararat as Minister of Justice. Everyone in the audience hall was shocked. Noah thought that he had answered the questions as usual, and now he had been appointed Minister of Justice. After some time, the new Minister of Justice got out of the carriage and headed towards the building. The Ministry of Justice. The workers stood in a bow and said that they were waiting for Noah, and addressed him as a wise prince. Noah sat down at the desk in the office, and a man stood in front of him. He introduced himself as Vinny Ozzy and said that he was the Deputy Minister of Justice. Having risen so high in his career so young, Noah was inquiring about his duties at the Justice Department, asking for a brief explanation. Vinny described the organization of courts by the Ministry of Justice throughout the empire, explained that it or the emperor personally would judge criminals who had committed serious acts, such as rebellions. Noah noted that, in other words, this place was something like a court. The man replied that the prince understood everything correctly. Then the prince asked if a man also judged, when he answered that in some cases. And then Noah asked how many bribes he had already taken. When he shuddered and answered fearfully that he had taken nothing, Noah promised to forget what had been said after he left, wanting to hear the truth without further intrigue. The calmed-down Vinny respectfully acknowledged the foresight expected from a wise prince. And then he said that he didn't take much, a few hundred ren a year, and that's because he was very considerate. Others who weren't so considerate took 10 times that amount. Then Noah asked what the man's obligations were. Vinny replies that he doesn't take murder cases. Noah asks why, and the man explains that they are easy to solve, so the case can also come down to revenge, and that is irreparable. He only takes cases that can go either way. Noah wrote a note increasing Vinny's salary tenfold, demanding that he stop his previous activities and helping to justify the emperor's trust. The man thought about how accepting a bribe, even if it was small, was still some kind of help. And now he understands why His Majesty gave the prince the title of wise, and why he appointed him Minister of Justice. He said that he didn't need the extra money and he wouldn't take any more bribes, so he asked to let him work for him. Noah was surprised and thought that in a normal situation, he would have doubted his sincerity. However, he looked at the status and saw that his mana and intelligence in the addition status had increased. Therefore, he said that he accepts Vinny. Sometime later, night. Musicians were playing outside, and maids were bringing delicious food. The residence of the 8th Prince Oscar. Noah thanked Oscar for choosing to celebrate his appointment in such a big way. Oscar replied that he was also glad, because the second person as a prince to be appointed minister during the reign of His Majesty was more than 50 years old. And since it was him, they should celebrate. Noah, looking down, attracted Oscar's attention with a question about joy. The young man explained that he was concerned about the emperor's rapid appointment of princes to ministerial posts. Oscar attributed the appointment to Noah's sympathy. He himself remembered, the army leads his brother, justice leads himself, recognizing the special imperial support. Oscar asked if there was anything troubling him. Noah replied that he knew the empire had a history of being close to destruction. After that, a history of major changes in the imperial system. Oscar replied that it was true. Everyone except the crown prince, who had studied political matters in order to inherit the throne, was incompetent, so the empire was in decline. Noah added that, because of this, the empire now grants the prince the title of prince and gives him feudal land to gain experience in governance. Oscar agrees with this statement. Noah went on to say that this situation, where ministers are appointed one after another without such training, and asked if Oscar thought that this suggested something. Oscar was very surprised. He jumped up from his chair, dropping it on the ground, saying there was no way this could happen. Everyone stopped and looked at Oscar, who, with a serious face, was thinking. He asked if a replacement was planned. The 4th Prince Noah replied that he was not sure, because as long as he was simply loved, there were no problems. At this point, the butler approached Oscar and reported, after which the 8th Prince said that everything was as Noah said, and he was amazed by this. Noah asked what he meant, and Oscar explained that the information he had acquired. Oscar was to be promoted to the post of Minister of Finance tomorrow, which astonished Noah. Oscar, still in a celebratory mood, raised a glass to his friend. At the palace, the emperor heard from the chancellor the news of the capture of 167 people, including Keats. It was reported that the monarch would have to abdicate, after which the throne would pass to the heir. The emperor looked at the night sky and said that after 50 years of reign and 45 years of being crowned prince, he could not wait any longer. The chancellor said he should point out that there was no evidence of the crown prince's involvement, and he would not be able to find any. The emperor said that he knew, so he would do nothing to Albert, so he ordered Keats to be executed and be done with it. The chancellor, standing silently behind, listened to the emperor's question about the fate of Oscar's appointment. He replied that the letter had been given to a corrupt officer, probably already known to the prince. Surprised by the chancellor's words about Noah's presence, the emperor asked whether this meant that the prince was aware of his plans. Hearing confirmation, the emperor admired Noah's usual foresight. After that, I began to think that Gilbert was no good, and so was Albert. The chancellor remained silent, and the emperor continued to ask who would be his successor, Henry, Oscar, or Noah, after which he said whoever it was. He hopes that he will overcome the tests he has prepared. Justice Department. Deputy Justice Minister Vinny Ozzie. He came into Noah's office and reported that the main and secondary criminals of this uprising, holding out a document. Noah studied them carefully while Vinny waited and came to the conclusion that they were people from the Crown Prince's entourage. Having revealed the familiar names of the confidant, the mentor, and the heir's knight, Noah concluded that what was happening looked like a rebellion by the prince's supporters. The subordinate asked for further instructions. Noah thought about it and looked at the man in front of him who was clearly worried. Noah knew that this was a natural reaction, because regardless of whether the crown prince was involved or not, in the imperial law, if the imperial family breaks the law, there is a clause that allows them to receive a lighter punishment. However, there is one exception: rebellion. If a member of the imperial family is involved in a rebellion, the punishment is beheading. Even in the case of ordinary crimes, knowing about the crime may not report it. But if the crown prince knew about the rebellion and did not report it, then he will be sentenced to death. This was the problem for Noah, because the betrayal of the crown prince is punishable by death. After all, this would be a terrible scandal, and the empire itself could be shaken. Noah thought for a moment and then asked Winnie if His Majesty the Emperor had told him anything. The man nodded and used a spell to repeat the text. The emperor's words came out saying that those who did this would be punished. The prince asked if that was all, and Vinny asked in return what he meant. Noah replied that apparently His Majesty did not intend to interfere. Vinny understood what was being said, and Noah confirmed that they would only execute those on the list. Thus, the rebellion did not even need to be recognized. Vinny replied that this was the right decision. Noah then gave the order for everyone to be executed immediately. Vinny bowed and said he was impressed. Noah thought about the fact that there were two types of executions, depending on the timing of the execution: immediate and collective once a year. If a collective execution can be achieved, it can lead to freedom. If there is no room for mitigating circumstances, the execution is carried out immediately. His Majesty clearly doesn't want to involve the Crown Prince in this, so he must do it. Noah stood up, and Vinny asked where he had decided to go, to which the prince replied that he was going to an audience with His Majesty, just in case. Sometime later, in the office of His Majesty the Emperor, Noah stood bowing before his father. The emperor asked why he had come, and Noah replied that it was because of the question about the rebellion. Noah's father asked what the punishment would be. The prince replied that according to imperial law, the main criminal would be sentenced to beheading, and the rest would be sentenced to death. He then raised his head to see the emperor's reaction, and added that it had been decided to execute them all on the same day. The emperor replied with a smile that he had done a good job, stood up and called the servant Cruz. He then conveyed that Noah had done a good job, so his allowance would be increased by 1,000 ren per year. Noah thought that this kind of judgment was not enough of an achievement to justify the pressure, but nevertheless it was this kind of message from His Majesty. He did not want to involve the crown prince. The emperor walked up to Noah, put his hands on his shoulders, and said that, as expected, he had done a great job and he would count on him to continue doing good work. Sometime later, the 13th Prince Noah returned to the Ministry of Justice in his carriage. He noticed from the window that someone was killing guards at the entrance. Noah ran out and learned from a wounded guard that intruders had entered and seriously wounded soldiers. After receiving a report of casualties and continued attacks, Noah sent the soldier to inform his brother at the military department. And then, on reflection, I realized that it could be problematic if they made such a big mistake. And so he gave a new order that he should gather everyone on the street and except for him, not let anyone else in, even if it was another prince. After which the 13th Prince Noah took out a magic sword and ran inside. He quickly rushed towards the uninvited guests, and seeing how they were fighting with people, he ran inside and saved the still living guard, wounding the enemy. After which he began to make confident and swift cuts and blows, striking the body of the intruder. However, the man in black-clad shouted that the prince was naive and cast a spell. With this spell, the man in black killed himself, not giving the prince a chance to capture him for interrogation. Noah realized this and noticed 3 more approaching opponents with swords. They jumped on him, but before he could strike, Noah repelled all the swords and decisively struck his opponents with Leviathan, after which he neutralized them with another blow. He used the artifact ring, wounded them again, and then he tied up the men so that they wouldn't do what the previous one did. At this moment, Vinny runs up and addresses His Highness the Prince, surprised to see how he defeated everyone. After which he approached him and reported that there were more than 20 victims among the guards, and more. All the rebels were killed. Noah asked again about the veracity of the information, and Vinny confirmed it. Looking at the prisoners, Noah realized that the 4 detainees were connected to the heir, who had tried to eliminate the dissatisfied. The subordinate asked how to proceed. Lost in thought, Noah clenched his hands and decisively wounded himself with a magical sword Leviathan. Vinny was shocked by this sight. Wounded by himself, Noah fell to one knee. He said that he had been attacked by these 4 men, and then asked what the harshest sentence would be for seriously injuring the prince. Vinny was shocked, and replied that the penalty for this was immediate death. Noah replied that he understood and ordered it to be done immediately in such a case. After a while, Noah was placed on a soft cloth and attended to by 2 doctors and 2 maids. Vinny reported that the order had been carried out. Noah nodded. By this time, his wound had been treated. Vinny said that everything happened as expected, and the prince concluded that this was the end of this matter, so he sighed calmly. The prince thought that one wrong decision and the entire country would be shocked by the actions of the crown prince. After some time, Noah came to the emperor. He said that since the prince was wounded, he did not have to bow. His Majesty the Emperor noticed that he began to come often, and also asked how his wound was. Noah replied that there was nothing to worry about. The emperor said that this was good and asked if the assassin was so strong that he could wound such a strong man as he. Noah thought that in the end, he would not be able to hide this from His Majesty, and also that he would punish Noah for cutting his own belly. So he thought about the scenario all last night and replied that regarding strength, he thought it wasn't just a matter of swordsmanship, because regardless of skill, any master could be subject to mental attack. The emperor looked at the prince and said with a smile that he had a good son. A son that he was not ashamed to show to anyone. Noah realized that the emperor had guessed that he had harmed himself deliberately. Thinking about different things, the emperor admitted that Noah's similar qualities would have made his rule easier. Then he asked the young man if he knew that most virtuous rulers ruined their own honor and authority. Noah understood. The emperor was afraid of the betrayal of the heir, which could disgrace the name of the great ruler, famous for the era of prosperity. The heir can force his father to abdicate, becoming the new emperor. Then history will add the image of the worst ruler, incapable of governing his son, finally destroying the father's reputation. Noah continued to think that most likely His Majesty no longer trusted the crown prince. The reason he does nothing about it is because disinheriting the crown prince would also destroy the emperor's legacy to some extent. But since there is no evidence, Noah will continue according to his scenario. After which, he says that he has a request to His Majesty. The emperor asked what he needs. Noah replied that he, Brother Henry, and Brother Oscar had all been appointed ministers by the emperor. This was the first time they had all been involved in something like this, and Noah was afraid that they might make mistakes. So he asked the emperor to appoint a man because they need someone to organize them. Then the emperor asked Noah what he wanted him to appoint as the first visitor. Noah answered in the negative. He said he was proposing to appoint prime minister of one of the princes. The emperor was surprised by the prime minister and the prince. Noah confirmed that he wanted exactly the prime minister, the one who would be responsible for everything. He would unite the 3 princes. And Noah also added, looking into his father's eyes, that he wanted this role to go to the crown prince. The emperor was surprised by this expression. Noah thought about whether it was a natural reaction, something like surprise, expressing the words you said. So Noah continued that, by making them organizers in various ministries, it could help stop the crown prince. In that case, the Crown Prince will cease to act on behalf of His Majesty. The decision will be made by the Emperor after considering the matter. There will be no additional burden on him. The Emperor is interested in the reaction of the Prime Minister if he refuses to obey. Noah offered each prince the right to appeal directly to the Emperor, bypassing the Prime Minister, to avoid injustice. The Emperor was amazed by this plan and said that it was amazing. Noah smiled happily. He thought that it seemed that his true intentions were understood, looking into the eyes of His Majesty the Emperor. The essence of this proposal is to elevate the Crown Prince to the rank of an authority figure. But this will not give any power. If he disagreed with the three prince ministers, they could let him pass and speak directly to His Majesty. He would govern them, but the Emperor would have the final say. In other words, the office of Prime Minister is just an office, and it does not matter whether it exists or not. The Emperor replied that this would be best, and that it was good advice, so he would listen to it. Noah thanked His Majesty. Then the Emperor stood up, walked up to Noah and placed his hand on his head, saying that he wished the hero had been born a little earlier. Noah smiled, and His Majesty went back. He said that now he must reward Noah. Money was too boring a reward, so he called crews over again and said they were going to the treasury. The Emperor said that the ring had certainly been found by Noah. The boy confirmed it. So His Majesty said that they were going to the castle treasury because the man wanted to see how he reasoned. They walked down a long corridor into the treasury, which was all glittering and strewn with expensive items. His Majesty said to choose one thing, something that Noah would like. The boy nodded understandingly. The Emperor watched the boy's actions carefully. Noah walked to the center and extended his hand forward. Then he activated his magical sword Leviathan, hidden in the bracelet, and began to examine the treasury with its help. Then he noticed a glow, a beam of light coming from some object behind the vase. He went up to it and saw that it was the box that was glowing. The box had a beautiful pattern and a stone on the lid in the front. The prince took it in his hands. He opened it. Inside was a ring with a stone in the shape of a flame. He turned the open box to the Emperor and said that he wanted it. His Majesty said with a smile that he was impressed by how Noah chose Ruthia without hesitation. As expected, the guy took the ring and said its name Rutia and then put it on the thumb of his right hand. The ring burst into flame. Its stat status has changed. Fire stat has risen to C. Noah thought this was possible because the stat was initially very low, but the fire rose straight to level C. He looked at the ring more closely and told Ruthia that it therefore had the power of fire. The Emperor remarked that Noah had seen through it all. The prince confirmed and said that it seemed to have impressive power. Then His Majesty asked him if he wanted to try it and suggested going outside for it. Then he turned to Cruz and told him to prepare everything he needed. However, Noah stopped His Majesty the Emperor and said that there was no need for that. The man turned around with a smile and asked if he had another idea. Noah said yes. The 13th Prince Noah and the Emperor came outside. The Emperor awarded the prince with the fire Rutia, which was imbued with a will like the sword Leviathan. When Noah concentrated, the ring was enveloped in a faint flame, and then there is a strong flow. The flames from the ring grew in all directions until it covered the hero completely. The Emperor shouted excitedly to Noah, but he, completely enveloped in flames, calmly said that everything was fine. The Emperor continued to watch with excitement, and from the flames appeared the blade Leviathan. Fire and water cancel each other out, so Noah felt no damage. If fire and water are equally matched, they will drown each other out. But if one is superior to the other, the effect will drop to almost zero. This was exactly what was happening now. Noah remained unharmed, even though the ground beneath him was melting. The Emperor noticed the prince's steadfastness in the midst of the molten earth. Completely unaffected by the heat, a sphere of water and flame appeared around Noah, and His Majesty realized that the melting was only occurring within the range of this sphere. Prince Noah confirmed this guess with a smile and replied that, with the help of Leviathan, he controlled the heat output. The Emperor, with a bright smile, said that it was amazing. Noah stood in the center, and the flames and water died down, leaving a pit. The joyful Emperor said that he was able to completely control the Ruthia ring, and this impressed him. And then he gave the order that Ruthia officially becomes a gift for Noah, and he added that he should continue to work hard for the good of the Empire. Noah nodded. They returned back to the palace, to the office of His Majesty the Emperor. Noah stood before him. The Emperor told him that there was one more thing he wanted to hear Noah's opinion on. The boy was surprised. The emperor then handed a piece of paper to Noah, and it said that His Majesty's younger brother, Graham Ararat, who was also Noah's uncle, had volunteered to pay a fine of 30,000 ren. Noah asked what Uncle Graham had done, and the emperor replied that Graham's son, who was his nephew, had committed a riot and killed a drunken man with whom he had quarreled. Noah was surprised by this discovery, and the emperor added that he personally accused him of the crime, while Graham proposed to impose a fine for not keeping an eye on his son. Noah replied that, according to the laws of the empire, Uncle Graham was innocent of anything, because just as a child is not obligated to pay off his parents' debt, so the child's crime does not extend to the parents. The emperor said he had given Graham the same answer, but he was still scared. He probably wanted to buy peace of mind by paying a fine. Noah looked at the paper and thought that 30,000 ren was a huge amount since the average monthly income of an adult male was 10 ren. The emperor asked what Noah thought. The boy replied that he thought he should refuse. The emperor remarked that this sounded like a no-lose proposition. Ren said that they could not impose a fine on an innocent person, even if he wanted to. The emperor asked if in such a case the law could be amended to allow self-payment. He explains his proposal by the fact that their treasury is in a state of chronic danger, because saving people from natural disasters, suppressing uprisings, all this costs money. Noah understood why everyone wanted to have extra income and understands the emperor's feelings. Therefore, he replied that if they create such a precedent, then people will think that if he paid, then he is innocent. And if this happens, then the barrier to crime will be lowered. The emperor replied that it was true. The restraining law would indeed die. And Noah added that, moreover, most of the people who will use this are merchants, nobles, and officials, and this can lead to political corruption. The emperor replied that he understood. Noah handed the paper back and added that the lack of a treasury was a serious problem, but had to be replenished with legal funds. The emperor agreed with Noah and said that this was good advice, and also that there was a need to further consult with Oscar, after which he wrote the decree on paper and put a seal on it. Noah glanced at the imperial decree that was handed to him again. It begins by praising the 13th Prince Noah for his wisdom, and ends with his appointment as an advisor to the prime minister. The emperor himself appointed his advisor as prime minister, and Noah guessed why. The monarch asked the boy if he was happy with the new position, but he answered gloomily that it was not about that at all, but about the offer. The emperor asked him what he meant, and Noah replied that there was no question of paying while avoiding sin, so he offered the possibility of allowing one to pay for honor. The emperor was surprised and asked him what he meant. Noah explained that his idea was to give the honorary title of knight to anyone who donated 1,000 ren to the treasury. People who have resources beyond their personal needs seek to gain honor by investing the surplus in the education of gifted poor people, thus enhancing their own reputation. The reason for the patronage of aristocrats. The emperor understands, and Noah clarifies that it is honor that can be bought. An honorary knight will never become a knight, and will not be able to come to real power. And he adds that instead of real power, they will receive a reward personally from His Majesty. The emperor asked about what this was all about, regarding the honorary title of knight. Noah nodded. His Majesty replied that it was a great idea, and Noah was amazing. He turned to Cruz and ordered that Oscar be informed immediately. Noah turned back to His Majesty. He said that he remembered that he had some unfinished business at the Ministry of Justice and therefore wanted to ask permission to leave. Noah realizes that, like everything else, it's not good to overdo it. So if he continues to stay here, he might end up in Oscar's territory. So he needs to leave with a suitable excuse before Oscar arrives. The emperor once again remarked on how smart Noah was and allowed him to leave, thanking him for his time. After leaving the office, Noah saw a crowd of servants near the magic pit. Eunuch Saz reported that everyone was amazed by the prince's deed. Noah usually met them in the palace. Sis said that everyone was wondering how the earth got melted into a donut shape. Noah nodded. Sis noticed that everyone was amazed by the strength of His Highness, and some even fell into the hole while trying to dig the earth. Someone even broke his leg. Noah handed Sizu a bag of coins and said that in that case, it was for treatment. Sis praised the prince's kindness to his subordinates, suggesting a quick wedding and noting the increase in those wishing to enter his service to over 100 people. This news surprised Noah. Sis mentioned the rise of eunuchs and the prince's popularity. Realizing the risk of the discussion, Noah switched to the question of the contents of the box in Siz's hands. Insects. He said he brought it for His Highness, the 16th Prince, who enjoys making beetles fight. Noah's younger brother, the 16th Prince, turned 3 this year. Since he is a prince, he is given a strict education. But at the same time, there are many children who ask the eunuchs to give them stuffed toys. Noah reached his carriage and got in. The maid asked where they were going, and he replied that they were going to the mansion. The prince looked out the window and thought about battles and beetles. He asked the rings if they could do it. He linked the ring of armor with Leviathan and with Ruthia, and a magical flash of light occurred. In the carriage, 2 small monsters appear on the seat. One was light with water magic and a magic sword in his hands, and the other was dark and fiery. They began to fight each other, one swinging a sword and the other with a fist. The sword and fist touched, and they retreated from each other, after which they made another lunge. Noah noticed Leviathan's movements, which were similar to when he swung his sword. He thought about how he would be able to move like that when he grew up, and that with Ruthia's power, he would also be able to move like that, while the monsters continued to fight with no sign of a winner. Noah kept his eyes on them and thought that it was fun to learn by watching this battle. However, the difference between them was obvious, and soon the ring of armor with the magic sword cut through Ruthia's monster. The maid, who saw all this from the window, noted that it was an amazing sight. Noah agreed. Then he took out the magic sword from his bracelet and wanted to repeat the movement he saw. He swung and made a cut in front of him. The maid didn't notice any cuts and thought the sword had missed. Noah said there was indeed a cut, after which he stood up and took one of the crystals of the decoration and showed it to the servant, separated by a smooth cut. The girl was surprised, and the prince returned the crystal to its place. The maid was again surprised that it did not fall, and Noah explained that because the surface is smooth, if you cut it perfectly, it will hold up perfectly when you put it back. The maid couldn't stop admiring, and Noah thought that in combination with the ring of armor, it was a simulated battle, and now they could practice the techniques that they both knew. And then he looked at his status and was very surprised that his level had increased. Now there was the number 2, and his health indicator also increased by 1 level. Sometime later, Prince Noah was sitting in the gazebo with his personal maid standing next to him. They were watching the battle between the Ring of Armor and Leviathan and the Ring of Ruthia. Leviathan had won once again. It was his 10th victory with 0 losses. Noah looked back and brought up the status window of the characteristics. He has already leveled up to level 3 and also increased his strength to rank B. Then he turned to Zoe, who, having lived in the mansion for 6 years, had learned a lot and began to understand Noah at a glance. The data verification magic was one of its features. It opened the status window that looked a little different. Unlike the prince, Zoe could show the reverse side of the data, which is represented by the addition sign. Zoe was amazed that the prince's level had actually risen because she had never seen anything like it before. Noah said that the result is really amazing, and Zoe added that if they continue to work hard, they will be able to improve the level even more. She doubts that they will be able to do this forever. Noah confirms progress in magic requires constant training, otherwise the indicators decrease. He increased the first level after 1 fight, the second after about 10 fights. The maid understood. At this rate, the prince believes that in order to reach level 4, he will have to fight about 100 times, so it will not be possible to gain a level right away, and they should be patient. The monsters continued to fight, and Noah said that he had recently come up with something. The maid asked with interest what it was. Noah replied that he thought they should team up with Leviathan and Ruthia, because with their power and his magic, they could reach a new level almost instantly. Zoe liked his idea. Noah thought that being a third party and watching from the outside was useless because he needed to know how they used their abilities. He noted that Ruthia hated losing, but if he lost to Leviathan, being twice as physically strong, his level would not become lower, but would remain the same. Ruthia struck at Leviathan, and Noah realized that even with this level of skill, it would not be enough to break through to the next level, because fighting each other could increase their own data balance. Ruthia swung and dealt a crushing blow to Leviathan, then looked at Noah. The prince commented that it was amazing and he was excellent in battle. Noah also noticed that his fire skills had increased. He praised Ruthia, saying that his skills had improved greatly, and then heard hands clapping. Noah turned around and saw the 4th Imperial Prince Henry Ararat with his personal maid. He said that he did not think he would meet Noah here, and also that his magic had become stronger. Noah asked how he knew about it, and Henry replied that he heard it recently while he was out on business. Then Henry became more serious. He reported that the monster's lair had finally opened. Noah was surprised. The prince had no right to leave without the emperor's approval, but the state was already preparing shelters to protect the city from future dangers. And since Henry came here, we can conclude that the preparation of the lands has been fully completed under the leadership of the Ministry of War Affairs. Henry sat down in the gazebo and said that His Majesty had given his permission, so he wanted Noah to tell him about the prophecy. The fourth prince gave Noah an inlaid box from the powerful sorceress, who instructed him to describe the contents necessary to prepare for the upcoming battle. Henry said that he needed to know the exact number of troops that should accompany them in the first battle, because they were responsible for the safety of the people and had to be sure that they could fight back and protect their future. Noah understood and asked what exactly he needed to do. Henry replied that he just needed to open it and that the answer should be inside. Noah took the box, brought it to himself, and opened it. The box turned into threads and unraveled, leaving a small sheet of paper in its place. Noah took the piece of paper and was surprised by what was written on it. Henry asked him about it. The guy unfolded the sheet, and on it was the number 1 written in magic. Henry was even more surprised. The 13th Prince Noah commented that the note said that only 1 warrior would be enough. Henry admired and said that this was wonderful. He was incredibly happy. Night, Noah's mansion. Ruthia and Leviathan were fighting at the table. The maid entered and announced the guest that interested the master. The maid replied that it was a messenger from His Highness, and he said that he had come here on a special mission. Noah was surprised, stood up, and said that he could come in. The messenger of the 4th Crown Prince was Rice Keki. He said that he came with an order, and Noah knelt down. The messenger turned out to be the personal representative of the 4th Prince, and, observing etiquette, Noah bowed before him, yielding to seniority and the status of a courtier, not daring to object to the order. Reese said that Prince Noah Ararat's first battle was to be immediately postponed indefinitely, and that he should now await the next order. Noah replied that he understood everything. Only then did he rise, and Rice in turn knelt down and thanked him for his time. The prince replied that everything was fine, and asked about his serving his brother Henry. Rice confirmed that members of the royal family appoint their own messengers, who are obliged to carry out orders. In addition to them, there are also officials of noble origin who are considered close. Noah once sent Evelyn to the magistrate, hoping that she would be under Rice's wing and become one of his confidants. But he, in turn, refused to promote her. But there is something else. Rice combines the roles of public figure, official, and messenger of the royal family, now serving his brother Henry, but indirectly accepts orders from Noah. So, after finishing reading the instructions, Rice apologized and immediately knelt down in front of Noah and lowered his head down. Noah sat down in his place, and Rice stood in front of him. The prince asked the man why he had been removed from military affairs. Rice replied that it was because of the decree of His Imperial Majesty. Noah asked for more details. Rice replied that Lord Henry immediately told His Majesty the result of the prophecy, and the emperor was instantly inspired. So he conveyed all the information to him and said that if the prophecy was true, then Noah's help would be useless. Noah understood this decision and can partly understand it because the main hero for the people is the imperial family and the 4th prince. Rice was amazed that only 1 warrior would go to battle. So the king, together with Lord Henry, plans to widely inform the people about the meaning of the prophecy, emphasizing the power of the state. Noah smiled and thought that if that was the case, then he had no choice but to wait. The next day, Cobalt Street. Noah was walking and looking at the goods of the stalls and shops with a night girl named Charlie Grants. Noah came here because he decided to find items related to Leviathan, so he tries to be very attentive. He went into one of the shops, and the employee asked him if he had anything in mind that he wanted. Noah asked in return if he had a cursed doll. The worker thought uncertainly, hesitated a little, and then explained that the item Noah was looking for served the dark side, and if it fell into the wrong hands, bad things would happen. Noah thought about it and asked what it meant that the worker wanted to say that he didn't have the item he needed in stock. The man agreed and said he deeply apologized for not being able to help him. Then Noah stood up and asked what if he offered a price of 10,000 ren. He showed a bag of money and said that if he still decided to sell him this product, he could just contact him. The worker was very surprised by such a large amount of money and accepted it. and Noah added that if any information appeared, the man should let him know, and then said goodbye. The prince was puzzled as to why the knight was looking at him strangely, and Charlie explained that she was shocked by Noah's extravagance in paying a large sum without purchasing the goods. Noah understood the girl's reaction and then thought that he understood her feelings, since he had encountered similar things in his past life. But now he had money, so over time, the shopping would pay off well. Then Noah and Charlie heard a loud scream that interrupted their conversation. A man was yelling at another man, asking what he said and asking him to repeat it. The man replied that he had said that someone else had already reserved the item. He was scared. The man was extremely unhappy because the other man had not said that the item was no longer for sale. Noah stopped them and began to approach. The attacking man asked who dared to interfere, and, upon seeing him, his face immediately changed. He recognized the prince and greeted Sir Noah in person. Noah was surprised that he was known. The man explained that his name was Darren and he was a messenger for His Highness Prince Gilbert. Noah stood before him and was surprised. Darren said they had crossed paths with him at the Imperial Palace Ministry. Noah thought about it. The Ministry of the Imperial Palace is in charge of family matters, finances, and contacts with the Emperor. The staff considers themselves the only ones with power in the country. Noah didn't deny it, and asked why he attacked the merchant in that case. Darren asked again in surprise, and then he explained that all this was because he was the minister of the Imperial Palace, after which he asked if no one knew about this. Darren said that he was untouchable due to his status in the ministry, and carried out raids to strengthen order and the authority of the imperial family. Noah thought that because he was not well acquainted with the rules of the Imperial Palace Ministry, he had no choice but to remain silent and not enter into an argument. But the people were frightened. Darren went on to say that he would ask that you not interfere and not teach him anything that he himself does not know. Charlie began to talk to Noah, and the prince discussed the high status of the court ministers. His behavior was explained by his awareness of special rights and power. He was proud of the privileges of the imperial ministry and his role as Prince Gilbert's herald. Noah said he understood his situation, however. Darren asked what was wrong, surprised that the argument was continuing. Noah explained that Darren said he served the imperial palace, and asked why he wasn't already on his knees and hiding his bashful look. Darren was surprised, but yesterday, Reese knelt down as a sign of respect and submission, because he knew that he was one of the members of the imperial family. So Darren should also communicate more respectfully. Darren sent the prince and started running away. So Noah ordered Charlie to be caught, tied up, and brought to him. Noah, noticing the man's reaction, doubted that he was Gilbert's messenger, and therefore said that, having discredited his brother's name, he did not dare run away. Charlie quickly caught up with the man, dodged his counterattack, and knocked the man to the ground. She then asked for a rope, and one of the passers-by handed it to her. Charlie thanked the man for it. She then tied Darren to a pole, after which the girl asked Noah if she should hurt him with a whip. But the prince slowly approached and ordered them to listen. Noah said that for blackmailing his people and subjects, threatening and extorting money from them, he was sentenced to death. Charlie replied that she understood and asked not to worry, assuring that she would take care of him. The villagers were happy to see him beaten to death, thanked the prince, and watched the punishment. After a while, Charlie ran up to Noah, who was sitting nearby, and reported that she had finished. She said that the police were coming to sort things out because of Darren's abuse. Noah realized that they had intervened because of the position of the injured minister. The actions were perceived as an extra-legal execution. Noah ordered the police to be brought to him. 2 policemen came and, fearfully asking for an apology, greeted the prince. The prince replied that the body should be removed, and if he had a family, his relatives should be informed immediately, and then the body should be cremated. He then ordered that they should go immediately to the palace, announcing the death sentence according to the rule that punished with death anyone who showed disrespect to the prince. The police replied that they understood everything and left. Charlie asked Noah what they should do now. Noah thought about it and ordered Charlie to handcuff him. The girl was surprised and asked why. The prince raised his hand. He replied that he would take full responsibility so that no one else would suffer because of him. The girl knight was very shocked by this decision and could not believe such a step. The residence of the first prince. Charlie led Prince Noah, who was handcuffed. The guards noticed that it was His Highness the 13th Prince. Noah replied that he'd come to apologize to his older brother and asked if they could tell him about it. He walked inside the clean and rich residence and asked forgiveness from his elder brother Gilbert. The first imperial prince, Gilbert Arad, stood at the window and said that he was glad to see Prince Noah. Then he noticed the handcuffs and asked what they were for. The guy explained that he had recently executed his messenger named Darren, so he wanted to apologize for not discussing what he had done with him. After which he explained the whole situation that happened on Cobalt Street, and Gilbert replied that Noah did the right thing. Despite the fact that Darren was a messenger of the imperial family, he deserved to die for his disrespect. Then he thought about the name Darren and said he didn't remember it. The butler explained that he was a man who had moved from the residence to the ministry of the imperial palace several years ago. Gilbert slammed his fist into his palm and said he remembered, adding with a smile that Noah shouldn't worry about it. The first prince said that he was being arrogant, so he kicked him out, and he was not worthy of being his messenger. So everything was fine. Noah thanked his brother for this, and Gilbert added that he did the right thing by finishing him off. And he said that he had managed to do a lot of things in his name, so he just wanted to thank Noah for defending his honor. Then Gilbert nodded to the butler, who removed the handcuffs from Noah, after which he advised him to hire a lawyer because it was not worth executing him right on the square. Noah thanked his brother and left his residence. On the street, Charlie asked about the meaning of this apology to Gilbert. Noah did not understand the essence of her question, and the girl did not know how to explain it. Noah simply said that he could not enter into his presence without showing that he admitted his mistake. He also added that he was angry when he saw it. Charlie was surprised and said that Noah treated him with great respect. The prince said that he could not ruin his relationship with a family member, neither with other princes nor with his brother. Besides, he was the minister of justice. Noah added that now His Majesty's mercy was somewhat greater towards him than towards his brother, and besides, he himself had come to apologize. The guy added that his still green younger brother apologized for doing something wrong, so how could he not show generosity in such a situation? Charlie smiled and said she realized that if the younger one apologized first, the older one wouldn't be able to get angry. Noah added that he had made a special arrangement for the truce and that there was another reason for it. Charlie asked about it. The prince explained that if he had done nothing, Gilbert might have interpreted his actions as hostility. Charlie understood. Noah added that he came to Gilbert and his brother forgave him. An aristocrat has honor. It is shameful to raise something that was once forgiven long ago. The girl said he was right and was surprised at how he thought everything through. The next day, Noah was approached by a butler who reported that they had a guest. The guy asked who it was, and Dylan said that it was from the ministry of the imperial palace, and he was waiting in the living room. Noah walked into the living room, and the man stood up and bowed to the prince. He said he was pleased to meet him. He then introduced himself as Don Oates. Noah sat down in his place and asked why he had come. Don said that he had heard about yesterday's incident and was impressed by what he had done, so he wanted to become his follower, and that was why he had come here. Noah asked if he wanted to serve him, and Don, bending his knee, said yes and asked to be considered for the position. Noah explained that as Minister of Justice, Don would hardly achieve a similar position at court, but he calmly replied that he would be quite content with the occasional use of the prince when necessary. Noah agreed, and the man raised his face, sincerely thanked him, and then left the residence. Noah turned to Dylan and, looking at Don through the window, ordered him to find out everything about him, but to be extremely careful. After some time, two maids were helping the prince dress. At that moment, Dylan came in and asked permission to report. He said the details had become known about a man named Don. Dylan explained that it was difficult to find out anything about him, but it seemed that he was a servant of His Highness the First Imperial Prince and his parents. Noah understood. Aristocrats sometimes marry servants. The prince's estates are especially guarded. For the sake of secrecy, it is difficult for simple servants to leave, so noble persons take concubines, whose children also serve their patrons. Dylan asked if it was possible that His Majesty the First Prince had sent a servant to Noah for surveillance purposes. Noah replied that it could be, so he ordered that no one be told what he had learned. They knew he was a spy, and so they could use him. Dylan agreed and was surprised that Noah only needed one look to see right through the spy. The prince thought about insight and brought out his status window. Even after all the training, his luck had not increased much. However, it is obvious that Don does not want to become a servant by his own will. After some time, Trader Byron Allen. Noah sat and asked about the reason for the man's arrival and what was behind him. Behind his back, men carried in various valuables in boxes. Byron said that Cindy had received His Majesty's blessing and officially became his wife. Noah was surprised. Cindy was the girl Byron had given to the royal palace as a servant. She had been chosen on Noah's advice 6 years ago, and now she'd been made a princess. Byron threw up his hands and said that it was all his gratitude, a small gift for the service rendered. Noah smiled and understood the man. He noticed that he had forked out a lot, a whole 30,000 ren, and asked why. Byron was surprised by the insight and the fact that the prince named the exact price. Noah decided to drop the subject and wanted to know about his wife first. He said she was a kept woman. Above the kept woman is the concubine, and above the concubine is the favorite. After them, at the top, is the empress. Byron supported the idea, hoping to see her as a favorite one day. The women of the palace are divided into classes, depending either on the success of their children or on the favor of the monarch. Noah became a wise prince 6 years ago, so his mother became the favorite. It makes no sense to say that the empress will always be one woman. Having reached the top, the girl will become an empress. Byron said that all that remains is to rely on the king's mercy. However, Noah objected because new trials await her ahead. Byron was shocked by this statement. Noah explained that, of course, buying His Majesty's favor was the fastest way, but the princess's policy was also very important. Noah asked, for example, what would happen if one of the girls replaced Princess Cindy's perfume with one that His Majesty didn't like. Byron didn't answer. The prince explained that girls are much more cunning than men. The female world is the abode of demons. Byron understood everything. Noah stood up and said to send the money. If he knows politics, he knows what to do. Byron bowed and thanked. The prince called his maid, Zoe. The girl came running, and Noah gave her the letter, telling her to deliver it and 10,000 rin to his mother. Zoe was surprised that it was necessary to go to the imperial palace and asked about Dylan. Noah explained that men were not allowed, and also added that she should tell his mother the following, after which he seriously said that he would be the guardian of Princess Cindy. Zoe asked if he wanted to protect her. Noah agreed. The guy said that we are talking about aristocrats, and even parents and children put profit above emotions and feelings. If Cindy succeeds, she will become a good ally for his mother too. Zoe expressed her surprise and said that she understood everything and went to carry out the order. Noah sat down on the sofa, and the maid reported that a man from Cobalt Street had come to him. The boy smiled that he had finally arrived. He wondered if there was any point in spending 10,000 ren. The merchant approached Noah, and the prince asked him what he had come to show. The merchant turned around and pointed to what the worker was carrying. Noah guessed what was under the curtain and asked if it was a painting. The merchant replied that it was something like that. The curtain was pulled down, and the merchant said that the name of the painting was Kazeva. It depicted a girl in a dress with her eyes closed. Noah came closer, studying it, and asked if it was cursed. The merchant replied that it was certainly cursed, and suggested that he look in the direction he pointed. There was a copy nearby, created along with the original, where the girl seemed younger, with short hair and short stature. Noah asked if the cursed canvas was constantly growing. Leviathan reacted to the present by emitting something unusual. Then Noah pulled it out of the bracelet and swung the sword of the apartment, surprising the merchant, who tried to stop him, not realizing the meaning of the act. Noah swung his sword in front of the painting, and at first, nothing seemed to happen. 1 second later, a crack appeared on the painting, and a girl's hand emerged from it. Noah watched carefully as the crack grew larger over time, and eventually the girl in the painting flew out of it in her true form. The 13th prince and the girl from the painting looked at each other in surprise. She was alive and floating in the air. The merchant was the most amazed and asked what it was. Then the girl wanted to say something, and Noah said that he understood everything. The man asked what he meant. Noah explained that the painting was painted with her blood. The guy who painted it had killed the girl when she was a child. The prince said that it seemed to have been painted with paint mixed with blood. The merchant was confused, after which the girl said that she wanted to thank the one who freed her. Noah replied that if so, he wanted her to swear allegiance to him. The girl flew up, promised to fulfill the wish, and returned to the painting. The merchant froze in surprise, and Noah smiled. Noah freed her, avoiding the trick of the canvas. Now the girl moves freely, after which Noah called up his stat window and noticed that the land status had increased slightly. The prince thought that it was a cursed painting, but if you put that aside, this girl was born. The merchant still couldn't believe what he saw. The cursed painting turned into the spirit of a girl and swore allegiance to the 13th imperial prince, Noah. Kazuha smiles sweetly at Mr. Noah. She says something to His Highness, after which Noah agrees to Kazuha's words and wants to try something. Then Kazuha gradually returns to the frame from under the painting. The man is surprised by what is happening and does not understand anything. As a result, Kazuha has turned into this same man. The original man looks at himself in shock. The man is shocked by Kazuha's abilities. Noah explains that she can transform into different creatures, grabbing the man's hand, the ring on which begins to glow. The transformed Kazuha holds out her hands. Noah asks Alan to touch Kazuha's palms. Alan touches his right palm and passes through it without feeling any physical contact. With his left palm, he touches Kazuha's palm and feels the touch. Mr. Noah says that the transformed Kazuha only materialized the right half of her body. Alan does not understand what is happening and is a little shocked. He is perplexed, but still understands how fascinating an experiment Noah has conducted. Noah says that the materialization is due to the connection with the ring. Noah continues to say that this transformation ability is almost perfect. Noah asks Kazuha to disappear halfway. Immediately, half of the transformed Kazuha disappears right before Noah and Alan's eyes, which scares the latter. There is a chandelier with candles in the room, which fill the room with light and warmth. Noah has generally understood everything, and says that in essence, Kazuha can transfer her soul. Alan admires His Highness's insight even in someone he has never seen before. Kazuha watches what is happening. Noah thanks Alan for a job well done, and asks to contact him if there is anything new. Outside, the sun was shining beautifully and warmly, illuminating the palace and the tree standing nearby. At that moment, Noah was walking through the palace and was immediately stopped by a servant, saying that Martha wanted to talk to Noah. Noah asks the maid again, to which she replies that Martha is the mother of the maid Zoe. Noah recalls that 6 years ago Zoe's home village was flooded, and she got a well-paying job here. Noah meets his mother in the cozy library, kneeling before the prince. Martha explains that her duty is to open and close the back door at the prince's command. Noah thinks about it and takes her words into account. Martha says that there are actually people who met someone at the back gate in the middle of the night not long ago. Noah is immediately interested in them. Martha immediately begins to remember them and clarifies that it was someone who recently arrived at the mansion. She says it was a man, like from the Imperial Palace Ministry. Noah immediately understands what kind of man she is talking about. That man was Don Oates. Martha immediately confirms the words of His Highness Noah. Mr. Noah clarifies that Don is meeting someone in the middle of the night, to which Martha confirms his words. She says that Don is trying to do everything without Noah noticing. Noah thanks Martha for the message, and generously thanks her with a bag of money, for which Martha thanks the gentleman, after which Martha calmly leaves. Noah just stares with a puzzled look. After a while, a moonless night falls. The doors at the back of the mansion remain open. The sound of a maid's feet can be heard at the entrance to the doors. Martha looks out from behind one of the doors. Immediately, an unknown person grabs her from behind. Martha screamed in fear. After that, the unknown person covered Martha's mouth and nose with his palm, which made Martha unable to say a word. From this action, Martha gradually begins to lose consciousness and close her eyes. She falls to the ground unconscious. The unknown person's hand approaches Martha's mouth, thereby checking her breathing. Don Oates puts his ear to Martha's chest, making sure that her heart is stopped, and then flees the scene of the murder. A voice from the darkness says that Don wanted to kill this woman. The whole situation was observed by the real and living Martha Zoe and His Highness Noah. Zoe says with horror that his target was her mother. Noah confirms her words and says that Don did it without unnecessary injuries so that her destruction would look natural. In front of the doors lies the lifeless body of Martha's clone. After a moment, the body begins to disappear, emitting a glow in a cloud of sparks. From this cloud, Kazuha appears. Zoe is surprised and says that Kazuha has turned into her mother. Noah interrupts Zoe, addressing her. Noah invites Zoe to go with her mother to her home village. He suggested they hold the burial in their homeland. Zoe is surprised and does not understand Mr. Noah's words. Noah does not mean the real body. Noah will tell them when it is all over, but for now, he suggests that Zoe and Martha rest. Martha begins to thank Mr. Noah as if reading a prayer. Zoe agrees with Noah's good idea, but she wonders if it's okay to leave someone like that unsupervised. Noah says that this man is already under surveillance. Zoe is surprised by Noah's words. Marta notices that Kazuha is not near them. Mr. Noah says that Kazuha has disappeared and is already pursuing this man. Zoe notices Noah's wit and admires him. Waking up on a sunny day, the boy sits up in fear on his bed, finding his body wrapped in bandages and feeling severe pain. His Highness Noah was sitting on a chair nearby, telling the guy not to overexert himself, as the guy almost went to the next world. The guy is surprised and reacts with fear to the sight of Mr. Noah. He asks Noah about his words. Noah clarifies what happened, that the guy said that he eliminated the witness and then he was tied up and brought to this state. Noah says he's been watching the guy since the beginning. The guy is grimly aware and conscious of what's happening. Noah recalls the phrase that people are treasures. The guy says that he was exposed before the crime was committed. He goes on to say that Noah lives up to his title of a wise prince. The boy calmly looks into the void. His smile expresses regret. He says that His Highness knew everything from the very beginning. Noah says that none of this matters now. Don is surprised by Noah's answer. Noah offers him to become his subordinate, even if they met under different circumstances. Noah says that he is much stricter about betrayal than the others, which means that once Don becomes his subordinate, he will serve him faithfully for the rest of his life. Don, hearing his words, immediately bursts into joy. He climbs onto the bed and immediately, bowing, thanks Mr. Noah. A skill window appears next to Noah, where His Highness has received an F bonus to wind. This means that Don has definitely become his follower. Noah advises Don to focus on recovery, promising to find a bankrupt nobleman in Almeria for a new name and status, offering to take refuge there temporarily. Don, without changing his position, thanks Noah for everything. Then, he turns to the master, saying that he will not be able to repay him in full, but still wants to say one thing. Don says that Gilbert made an offering to His Majesty. Namely, he presented him with Poinic sake. Don says that it would be better for the Emperor if he stopped drinking it. Don's aura becomes more intense. He intrigues Noah with his words. Outside, the sun is still shining pleasantly, illuminating the mansion and the trees. The sky is still beautiful. Clouds float calmly on it. The pleasant light of the sun illuminates the palace room. His Majesty is interested in Noah's imminent agitation. Noah excitedly tells His Majesty to stop drinking Poinic sake. His Majesty inquires about the sack that was produced in Gilbert's dominions. Noah says that Poinix has nutritional properties and a tonic effect. However, when eaten with dragon's claw, it turns into a strong poison. His Majesty asks Noah to repeat the last phrase. His Majesty says that sake is used in the annual ancestor worship ritual. It is drunk by His Majesty and the Crown Prince. Noah states that the absence of sake poisoning for a year rules out the possibility of toxicity, even when combined with the dragon's claw. His Majesty ponders and asks about the results of the search for the culprit. He is also unsure about the poison in the sake. Noah says they discovered the poison's effects when they gave the test subjects sake to try in exchange for freedom. His Majesty declares that if they do nothing, both princes will die during the ritual, since the heir also drinks sake. Noah agrees, sweating nervously. His Majesty thanks Noah, saying that he did a wonderful job. In an instant, His Majesty calls Cruz, giving the order to summon Henry here and sends soldiers to besiege the first prince's mansion. Cruz immediately agrees with the order. His Majesty sends Noah away, telling him that he will receive his reward later. Noah turns and leaves. Walking slower than usual, Noah recalls his conversation with His Majesty, feeling great fear and anxiety from the threatening appearance of the monarch. Noah doesn't believe this whole situation and turns around abruptly. His Majesty stood before him. His Majesty tells Noah that he is very clever. Noah is shocked and frightened by his words. Noah assumes that His Majesty knew about Noah's brother's plan. His Majesty confirms his words, adding that he did not drink Gilbert's sake. Noah is shocked by His Majesty's words. He cannot say a word. His Majesty suspects a conspiracy against him and asks Noah to confirm that he is not involved, receiving confirmation. He then turns to Noah and appoints him as Deputy Minister of Military Affairs. From now on, Noah Ararat is also responsible for military affairs. Noah is shocked by this decree from His Majesty. His Majesty also appoints Noah as the Admiral of the First Army, known as the Imperial Guard. Noah is absolutely shocked by what is happening. He bowed down before His Majesty to accept all his gifts and instructions. His Majesty cannot simply surrender, because if his son takes his life, he will become a laughingstock for posterity. His Majesty says that if such a thing happens, then let Noah take the imperial capital under his own control. His Majesty offers Noah to make a suitable person the emperor. Noah is completely shocked by what is happening and cannot say a word. He understands what responsibility has fallen on his shoulders. Kazuwa is a thousand-faced beauty. Her favorite thing is to transform into different kinds of creatures. Her least favorite thing is to remain unchanged. A few days later, Noah and Albert meet in His Majesty's room. Noah says that they have finished their investigation in Gilbert's house and have found useful information about the secret room and the dragon's claw. Albert confirms Noah's words. Following this, he changes his expression to a sinister one and says that now they have all the evidence that an attempt was made on His Majesty's life. Noah reports to His Majesty that Gilbert has been arrested. Magic and freedom of action are restricted, and the best guards are providing security. The monarch admits to being at a loss as to what to do next. Noah says that it was a deliberate attempt on His Majesty's life. According to the laws, such a crime is punishable only by death. Albert looks majestically and arrogantly in the direction of His Majesty. His Majesty frowned and thought. Albert asks His Majesty about the possibility of acquitting Gilbert. His Majesty thought about Albert's words. His Majesty asks about the consequences of the arrest. Noah explains that the execution will be replaced by imprisonment, emphasizing that the final word remains with the monarch. Albert says that the highest sentence for a man like Gilbert is execution. Gilbert should be grateful that His Majesty is lenient and did not give him over to the wild beasts. His Majesty says that Noah is guided by right and humanity. Noah bowed in response to His Majesty's words. His Majesty suggests that Noah consider whether this action would be the right decision. Albert begins to get indignant, asking about the execution. Noah thinks that Gilbert is one of His Majesty's sons. Even if he tried to organize the assassination, he has a chance for pardon. The sentence can be appealed up to life imprisonment. Albert insists on the immediate execution of anyone attempting to kill the monarch. His Majesty ponders the proposal, awaiting a decision. Suddenly, His Majesty pronounces Albert's name. He tells him that Gilbert's execution is entirely entrusted to him. Albert confirms His Majesty's words. Then he leaves the place of conversation with His Highness. His Majesty asks Noah if he understands everything. Noah confirms His Majesty's words and says that he has no other choice. His Majesty feels that Noah is very worried about him. His Majesty says that Gilbert's lands will be given to him, but he wants Noah to take care of the lands. Noah asks for forgiveness, thereby stopping His Majesty's narrative. His Majesty is interested in Noah's apology. Noah says that the matter began under his command. Although Gilbert's land is sealed and everything is transferred to the royal treasury, it is impossible to get his entire fortune. Since then, it could lead to bigger problems. His Majesty smiles, reacting to Noah's words. Then His Majesty asks Noah to think again, to which he is surprised. His Majesty understands what Noah is going through, and that the consequences could be severe. But still, no one knows Gilbert better than Noah. Noah understands everything and worships His Majesty. His Majesty asks for one favor, that Noah personally go to that place and supervise everything there. His Majesty also gives Noah a chance to think about his marriage. His Majesty says that it can no longer be postponed. Noah is a little surprised. The age of marriage for members of the royal family starts at 12 years old. The marriage is strictly political. The brides are chosen from the best families with an impeccable pedigree. His Majesty proposes the candidacy of the Thunder Emperor's granddaughter's daughter-in-law. Noah does not object to this proposal and agrees to it, and also thanks His Majesty. His Majesty says that she is quite a smart girl, and according to the predictions, their compatibility is 5%. Therefore, there is a possibility that the future heirs of His Majesty will have excellent intelligence and strength. But he bows and says that he would be only glad to have such a wonderful partner as her as his legal wife. His Majesty orders Noah to marry the Thunder Emperor's granddaughter. Noah obeys and leaves the hall, past the palace's bookshelves. Noah is escorted by His Majesty's advisor. After a while, the advisor comes to His Majesty and begins to ask him about the girl who is going to be wooed, to which His Majesty says that she is the granddaughter of the Thunder Emperor. The advisor asks for forgiveness and says that it turns out that His Majesty does not care who his son marries, and this is disrespectful to the bride and her grandfather. It is important for the advisor to know what kind of person the future Empress's groom is. His Majesty smirks and remembers the words spoken by Noah, that His Highness Noah has no choice but to obey His Majesty and do as he ordered. The advisor praises Noah's choice of bride, believing that their offspring will strengthen the relations between the two countries. The monarch supports this idea. His Majesty is confident that the children will surpass their parents. The advisor highly praises Noah's abilities as a warrior and leader, an opinion the monarch approves of, stating that all that remains now is to wait. One morning, Mr. Watts comes to Noah. He falls to the floor and begins to bow. Noah gets up with a vengeance and asks why he disturbed him so suddenly. He apologizes and says that he is guilty before Noah. Noah asks Watts not to hesitate. Watts tries to say something, but he can't get the words out. Noah says that if the imperial law provides for the man's release, then so be it. Watts listens silently as Noah explains the reasons for the summons, the weakening of power after Gilbert's execution, and the opportunity for Watts to keep his name and remain in the capital. Watts raises his head and tries to say something. Noah continues that treason is punishable by 100 years in prison. He offers Watts as much money as he needs and asks him not to refuse. Watts sits up and is indignant. Noah says it's all because he saved his father's life. Watts' eyes fill with tears of happiness. Noah will do everything he can for Watts, but first he wants to visit Gilbert's house. Watts looks at Noah with confusion. Noah asks if everything is okay with him, to which Watts says that he's incredibly grateful and that he will always be there for Noah. After a while, Noah and Alice are walking down a street with many stalls. Noah wants to get away a little, so he takes Alice with him. Alice notices something interesting and invites Noah to take a look at what's going on. Noah notices it too. The girl is looking for candidates happily and ambitiously. A crowd is gathered around her. She is looking for people who will defeat her and win. The bet is only 3 coins. A man from the crowd sets a condition that if he wins, this girl will be his. She smirks and accepts his offer. The crowd cheers. Noah watches from the sidelines. Noah thinks that in their country you can buy and sell slaves. For the first time, he sees people selling themselves. A man from the crowd says he can beat her. The girl doubts his strength. The man begins to attack and swings at the girl. The crowd holds its breath. The girl dodges the blow, simultaneously grabbing the man by the collar. With a sharp movement, she throws him to the ground. Holding out her hand, she asks the man for 3 coins. He is very surprised. The girl says that he has not paid yet. The crowd does not understand how she did it. Noah just watches the outcome. The man runs away in fear. The girl waits for the next opponent. Another man comes out after him. After a while, the story repeats itself, and time after time the girl knocks down each of her opponents. Spectators are shocked by the defeat of 15 participants in a row. A brave man goes out to fight a girl, ignoring payment. The girl watches his attack tensely. She understands that she can't dodge the blow. With a swift blow, he hits her in the stomach. The crowd is even more surprised. Smiling, the man holds the unconscious girl in one arm. The man says that the girl is now his. The men in the crowd envy him. Suddenly, Noah asks for attention and says that the man cheated. The man begins to show aggression towards Noah. At this point, Noah raises his hand. He lowers the girl's shoes in the man's hands. The crowd does not understand anything and is indignant. Noah says the man hit the girl in the stomach, which is against the rules. The man doesn't believe him and asks for proof. Noah uses the power of the Leviathan. One man from the crowd falls to the ground. Noah finds out if the man knows the boy. He denies knowing him, but witnesses claim otherwise, causing the crowd to become angry. The man begins to attack. Noah pulls out a sword from nowhere. With quick and sharp movements, he strikes the man. The blows turn into wounds and start bleeding. His blows hit the belt, which immediately broke. The man is confused. Noah asks for another round. The crowd is in awe of this fight. The man runs away with a little fear and threats. Noah just looks at him at this time. After some time, the girl regains consciousness. The first person she saw was a boy. The girl is puzzled by the question about the boy. The maid reminds her of the rescue by the young man, which surprises the girl. Noah asks if she remembers the events of the past. The girl says she remembers something. She was fighting with a guy, and then her body seemed to go numb. Noah says that this guy talked his friend into it. While one was casting a spell, the other attacked the girl. The girl is angry at the guy. Noah agrees with her words, and at the same time begins to scold the girl. He does not understand why she decided to do such a thing. The girl shows resistance in words. Noah doesn't understand why she's doing this, because she's still a child. The girl can't say anything in response. After some time, she says that it's all because of a business trip. Then she clarifies that she came to this place for the night selection, but failed the entrance exams. She also spent all the money, so she can't return to her hometown. Noah notices the inadequacy of her story. The girl is perplexed. Noah says he saw her abilities in the square. It's very strange that a girl with such skills didn't pass the selection. The girl says that she would like to meet the imperial chief judge so that he can help her get into the selection. They don't want to take her because she is a girl. Noah understood everything and had a complete picture. Women can't just take the test. They'll probably have to sell their bodies. Noah asks if she's changed her mind about becoming a knight. The girl exclaims and says that she really wants to become a knight and will do everything for this. Noah takes out a bag. He gives this bag of gold and says that it should be enough for her. Noah tells the maid to have Dylan find an empty house and move the girl into it. The girl doesn't understand anything. Noah just wants the girl to enter the academy and prove that girls can be knights too. The girl is very surprised by Noah's words. He says that it will be easier for the girl to be in the city and calmly prepare for exams. The girl wonders who this unusual person is. Their conversation is interrupted by the voice of a screaming man. A group of angry men stand in front of them. One of them immediately recognizes Noah. Noah is surprised and decides to approach, but is unable to do so. Noah wonders if he can do one thing. He starts trying. Gloves appear on his hands. They start to catch fire and glow. With a scream, one of the men attacks him. With a sharp blow to the face, Noah throws the man back. Noah moves on to the other man, defeating him with a blow to the chin. He grabs the other man by the throat and sets his head on fire. The girl admires Noah's speed and strength. His defeated enemies lie next to him. Noah notices something. He asks the armored man standing nearby. Noah leaves the men to the girl. The girl recognizes the armored man. He is a knight of the imperial palace. Noah is a little surprised. The man sweats from the intense gaze. He is afraid and trembles with fear. Noah sees a weak man in front of him. Noah thinks that the man immediately realized who he was and would not attack. The man falls to his knees and begins to ask for forgiveness from the 13th prince. The girl is surprised by the guy's title. Noah decides to introduce himself to the girl as Noah Ararat. The knight is still afraid to raise his gaze. The girl admires Noah. Not only is he from a rich family, but he also does not show his status. Noah leaves the girl with this man. The man is worried and afraid of pressure from Noah. The man does not want to disobey Noah's orders. Noah forgives the man and asks him to get rid of the men he defeated. The boys are surprised by what is happening. The knight takes one of the men away. The clapping of hands of an unknown person is heard. The remaining boys run away. The unknown person says that his face, hands, and the whole boy in general are strong. The stranger has not seen such a person for a long time. Noah notices him. There is an unusual-looking vessel. Noah looks at it warily and does not understand what kind of vessel it is. He thinks that he may have already seen the owner of this vessel. He kneels down and says that he has already seen him. Noah introduces him as His Royal Highness Indra. Indra greets Noah joyfully. Indra takes the vessel in his hands. The crowd of people looks on warily. Alice and the girl look on in surprise. Noah waits for His Highness to act. His Royal Highness is the King of Thunder, and his name is Indra Ararat. He was the right hand of His Majesty when he ascended the throne. At that time, the empire was in great decline, as His Majesty was young. With his knowledge, Indra helped to raise the capital. 5 years later, he was dubbed Thunder, for helping the young emperor conduct politics and maintain power. Now he leads a detached life in his domains. Indra tells Noah to sit down next to him. After a while, Indra drinks some liquid from a vessel. Then he turns to Noah. He has already met Evra, as His Majesty has informed him. Indra has come here for a special reason. Noah asks Indra about the importance of his coming. Indra thinks and says that Bose is the wisest prince of the 17 contenders. The Emperor trusts Indra, so Indra is worried about this situation. Noah thinks that the Inspector General's officials will be furious when they hear Indra's words. His Majesty's uncle is considered a vassal, and it is humiliating when His Majesty addresses a vassal with respect. Noah thinks that his uncle doesn't care when he is impeached, because His Majesty doesn't blame him. Noah asks what he should do if things don't go according to plan, to which Indra says that it's not up to him to find a bride. He asks Noah about the order to find a bride. Indra thinks that it doesn't matter anymore. They start talking about Era's granddaughter. Indra, smiling, hints at the benefit of his nephew's order. While Noah ponders why Indra is indifferent to power, he suddenly changes his tone of speech. Noah immediately panicked and stood in a stupor. His body went numb. This usually happens when Noah uses Leviathan. It was Indra's menacing aura. Noah gathers all his strength into his fist. His gaze is full of determination. Noah needs to calm him down. Indra is happy, but at the same moment her face changes from fear. Noah wonders if he can push him away. Noah, with clenched teeth, tries to do something. Then he thinks about stopping. Indra is Noah's great uncle. Indra will not go against the law and will help Noah. They do not win or lose. They adapt. Suddenly, Indra starts laughing loudly. Noah is shocked and confused. Indra says that he is shocked and that he is losing his grip. Noah, confused, says that it will really be a draw. Indra immediately realizes that this whole situation will lead to a draw. Indra shows care and trust in Noah, entrusting him with taking care of Era's granddaughter, which sincerely pleases Indra himself. Then Indra turns to a passing waiter and says that he will buy all the alcohol. He is in a good mood today. He throws coins into the air and shouts that he is treating everyone. The crowd can drink as much as they can. The crowd cheers and rejoices. Noah smiles and says that it is rather strange, since such a character trait does not come in his family. Then Indra throws something to Noah. It was a ring, which Noah caught with both hands. Indra tells him to show everything that Noah is capable of. Noah's gaze is filled with fear and shock. Instantly, Noah finds himself in an endless field. Noah doesn't understand where he is. He heard something and noticed something. He turns around at the sound. A bull is running towards him quickly. Noah must show what he is capable of. A second later, a sword appears in Noah's hand. The bull begins to approach Noah. Swinging the sword, he shouts at the bull to disappear. He swings his sword and releases force. The bull instantly evaporates from Noah's blow. Noah's gaze is determined. A window of his statistics appears in front of Noah. Noah looks at this window. He notices that his light skill has increased by +C. A voice tells him to tame the golden bull. Noah understands the words spoken by the voice. Suddenly, he finds himself in the same place where he was before. Indra says that the ring only works in tandem with ale beer. Noah puts the ring on his finger. The ring begins to glow. Noah takes the jug in his hand. Gradually, the jug begins to transform and acquire a shiny appearance. Indra watches with a surprised look as Noah pours ale from the jug. Indra is amazed by the Emperor's son's success with the ring, which Indra himself could not master. Noah realizes the difficulty of the task, noticing the synergy of both rings. Suddenly, a bull appears on the table. Indra is amazed by this creation. Noah looks at the bull with joy. Then this bull approaches the jug and embraces it. The bull begins to pour ale into the glass. The crowd rejoices. Indra is amazed by what is happening. Noah offers Indra to learn strength and skill together. Indra does not ask Noah to repeat himself. Noah says that Indra understood everything correctly. He then begins to create various creatures such as Leviathan, Rutia, and Kazua. Suddenly, there is a bright glow where Noah ends up. He again does not understand where he is. He thinks that the place where he is like a soul in which he seems to be floating. The voice says that after 1,000 years, all four have finally gathered. Noah does not understand what kind of voice is speaking to him. The voice says that this is the first time since the Silver Age. The voice continues to say that at that time, the child's power level was 255. They decided to restore their powers for him. The voice says that when they all gather and when they are fully restored, a great day will come. The voice believes in the divine child completely. Noah is confused as it is the first time he has heard something like this. Then this glow begins to disappear, gradually erasing Noah from the space. Noah finds himself in the same place he was before. He looks at the creatures he created. On the table are Leviathan, Ruthia, Bull, and Kazeva. Noah does not understand what it was. A man from the crowd says that heaven is waiting for a child of God. Noah does not understand his words. The crowd begins to whisper among themselves, saying that God is waiting for a prince, and that this voice is the voice of God. They begin to admire. Noah is confused. Indra says that everyone heard that voice. He heard that voice along with everyone else. Indra says that Noah is lucky. Noah then turns to Gigi and asks her to give all the witnesses 10 coins each. One of the duties of aristocrats is to take care of the people. The second class of people living in the city is comparatively different from the third, because they do not have the necessary patience and are too greedy, so the approach must be special. The crowd begins to thank Noah. The girl looks on with surprised and discouraged eyes. She falls to one knee and says that she has something to tell Noah. She would like to refuse his help, for which she asks his forgiveness. Noah does not understand why she made such a decision, to which the girl says that she wants to become Noah's personal knight. She wants to become a sufficient candidate to always and everywhere be with him. She wants to become the most worthy knight for Noah. His words became clear to Noah. The guy refuses the girl, accusing her of unwillingness to study and laziness. The offended girl reproaches him for being biased towards the second grade, to which Noah asks about her aspirations for high achievements. He tells her not to be ashamed of receiving help, because later she will understand that it was not in vain that she did not refuse it. The girl looks at Noah with an enthusiastic expression on her face. If she wants to become a knight, she must earn this position. The girl confirms his words and looks at Noah happily, but with embarrassment. Indra is surprised that Noah is giving educational talks. Suddenly, their conversation is interrupted by a voice. Indra and Noah turn towards the voice. They were distracted by the voice of His Majesty. Noah looks at him with a calm face. Indra and Noah kneel down, thereby greeting His Majesty. The crowd is surprised by the presence of His Majesty. The whole crowd knelt before him. It was a sudden visit from His Majesty. The entire crowd kneels before His Majesty. His Majesty says that since they are outside the royal palace, there is no need for formalities, so he asks them to just sit and talk with his uncle. Indra is amazed by his words. Suddenly, Noah's ring began to glow. A silhouette appeared next to it. The crowd was frightened when they saw this creature. A creature with flames coming from its hands and head appeared before them. The crowd was surprised and delighted. Finally, Noah will show all his strength and power to the people with the help of the fire demon. The bracelet on Noah's hand begins to shine a little. Noah has resolutely called Leviathan. All this in order to calm the people. Noah thinks that he did everything right, but for His Majesty, such an act of Noah is a little arrogant. Noah says he had to take measures for the safety of His Majesty. His Majesty feels safe and has nothing to worry about. Indra is surprised that His Majesty is calm, even though this guy is one of his best sons. Because of this, His Majesty does not worry about his safety. His Majesty says that Noah is somewhat similar to Indra. Indra, in turn, says that he is a simple thunderer, unlike His Majesty's son. His Majesty says that Noah still has everything ahead of him, and in any case, only one man will go into battle. The crowd is surprised and a little frightened by His Majesty's words. The girl rejoices, believing that the fight is being fought by a crowd. Noah realizes the responsibility of protecting the monarch alone and prepares to appeal to His Majesty, who is closely monitoring the development of the situation. After all, Noah's duty is to follow His Majesty. Despite the gossip and malice around, His Majesty chose Noah, announced his name to the people, and designated him as a warrior. The people believe in Noah. Noah thanks the monarch for the chance to prove himself. His Majesty praises Noah's fighting qualities. Indra inquires about her brother's concerns, having learned that haste has prevented a proper understanding of the situation. Indra never thought of it. His Majesty says that Noah is a brave guy, and that's what worries him. Because Noah is who he is, he will always be in trouble. Indra laughs and understands everything. He says that he is not worried about Noah at all. That is why he asks His Majesty to have confidence in Noah. Noah smiles. He is pleased with the words spoken by Indra. His Majesty invites Indra for a walk. Noah reflects on the monarch's long journey for the sake of a confidential conversation. Indra willingly accepts the offer. In the carriage, Indra and the king are preparing to discuss an important matter, but noticing a lot of people around, Noah calls Ruthia. At this time, the people admire Ruthia's blazing fire. They shout and rejoice at the fire demon. Ruthia shoots a column of flame upward. Noah turns toward the carriage. His Majesty is looking at him. His Majesty thought for a moment with a menacing expression. He says that he wants to calm and pacify the crown prince. Indra is a little shocked by His Majesty's words. Noah heard all this and reacted calmly to it. The crowd admires and welcomes the emperor. His Majesty says that he thought he would be easy to pacify, but it was not so easy. Indra asks some questions about this. His Majesty says that it was Gilbert's idea. Noah reasons that Gilbert initially wanted the speedy descent of His Majesty. Thus, he set up people and himself went to trial. For treason, he was sentenced to death. His Majesty says that Gilbert has betrayed him, but he wants to mitigate the punishment. Indra appears, saying that he deserves to be executed because he disobeyed His Majesty. The country understands everything. His Majesty thinks seriously. Noah wonders why His Majesty decided to consult his uncle about this rather than make a decision on his own. His Majesty is thinking in his mind. He says he does not know what to do about it. His Majesty says that the sentence should be passed soon. Indra appears and says that execution is better than leaving Gilbert alive. His Majesty agrees with Indra's words. They continue to ride, lost in their thoughts. Noah begins to get a little angry. He clenches his fist and soon says that he is worried about His Majesty. His Majesty does not understand why Noah thinks this way. Noah says that let those close to His Majesty handle this matter, and at the trial they will pass a sentence and announce the name of the crown prince. Indra doubts the authenticity of the documents, claiming that they are easy to forge. Noah assures the king that he will make every effort to confirm their authenticity, removing any doubts. The monarch clarifies what he said. Noah confirms his words and tells His Majesty not to worry. You can use magic or engrave words on your own teeth. Indra likes Noah's suggestion, because with this method there is no need to worry about His Majesty. His Majesty also likes this idea. He begins to thank Noah for the great idea. Meanwhile, they arrive at the palace. They are all standing at the main table of His Majesty. His Majesty turns to the advisor and tells him that no one should come to them. His Majesty says that he will immediately use Noah's idea. Noah turns to His Majesty and tells him to regain command of the army. Indra says that there is no need to rush, because the emperor is the original commander of the army. Noah thinks that this is all a coup d'etat. Indra confirms his words and says that no one else will offer their candidacy and take the place of the commander. His Majesty turns to Indra, saying that he deserves this place no less, to which Indra simply laughs. At the table, the monarch writes and signs papers, handing them to Noah. The documents contain a decree dismissing the governor and a letter to his brother Henry. After this, the king calls clues. Indra looks at them with apprehension. He then asks if one of the advisors can be trusted with the letters. Clues says that he can be trusted because he is deaf and cannot read. Indra says that everything must be kept secret. Clues says he only understands sign language. Clues explains everything to the second advisor, who then turns around and leaves. Indra asks about disinheriting Prince Albert. The room is silent. Noah says that it is not in their power. Indra does not understand his words. Noah says that no matter who appoints or removes the crown prince, the emperor will have the final say. His Majesty understood Noah. Noah says that, unlike Gilbert, his brother has not committed any serious crimes. So after the decree of removal, Noah thinks that it is worth leaving him the title of prince and not disinheriting him. His Majesty says that the prince does not have much faith in the people and peace in the country, but the prince is strong enough for everyone to bend the knee before him. Noah suggests some amendments. Indra asks His Majesty if he agrees not to strip Prince Albert of his royal title. His Majesty immediately denies his words. Noah thinks that Albert will be abandoned in the same way as Gilbert. After some time, His Majesty writes new letters. Indra finds it hard to understand His Majesty now. His Majesty frowned and looked menacingly at the sheets. His Majesty says he will disinherit his child, knowing that it could come back to haunt him. He will not tolerate disrespect. Indra understands everything and says that they will rewrite everything and make all the amendments. Some time later, His Majesty holds a letter in his hands. He gives this letter to Clouseau, who in turn gives the letter to his secretary. This secretary takes the letter in his hands and is surprised by what is written. Noah immediately understands everything. He immediately runs up to this secretary, grabbing him by the shoulder. Indra doesn't understand what happened here. Noah says that this guy glanced at the decree and gave himself away. His Majesty begins to arise and wonder. Noah says that he showed the reaction of a seeing man and read everything that His Majesty wrote on paper. His Majesty begins to shout furiously at Clues. His Majesty asks why he was able to read the decree. Clues cannot say anything and simply begins to shout. At that moment, that advisor breaks free and starts to run away. Noah says that he won't run away and uses his power. Noah clenches his fist, causing that guy to fall to the floor. His Majesty thinks he is someone's spy. His Majesty does not understand how he managed to sneak in, to which Noah says that he pretended to be uneducated, but he saw him whispering and reading the letter. The guy deserves the death penalty. Indra says that before he is executed, his eyes and tongue must be torn out. Noah says that he must be interrogated and then eliminated. There is a deathly silence within these walls. Clues falls to the ground and apologizes as it is his fault. His Majesty asks Noah how they will eliminate him. Noah says that he is sentenced to death, so he will deal with him later. Clues is shaking, head down. Noah says Clues' only offense was failing to keep an eye on his own people. His punishment will be a 6-month pay cut. His Majesty confirms Noah's words. Clues understood everything. Noah wonders who could have sent a spy to steal these papers. Noah thinks that this is all the work of the Crown Prince. Indra understands everything. His Majesty is grateful to Noah for preventing the information from leaking. Noah confirms His Majesty's words. His Majesty tells Clues that he can go too. The Prime Minister praises Noah's work, while His Majesty suspects that Albert sent the spy out of irritation with the heir. Sometime later, at night, some questions were discussed in His Majesty's room. His Majesty inquires about the conversation with that ambassador spy. The Prime Minister says that they interrogated him secretly. The king is interested in the knowledge of Leviathan. The minister informs him that Leviathan is one of the 4 sages of the Silver Age who helped the emperor gain power. The monarch suggests that Leviathan is the one who gives Noah his strength and energy. The monarch decides to postpone a foreign trip, needing permission from domestic affairs. The Prime Minister, awaiting instructions, respectfully agrees. Noah doesn't understand and says the name Albert with a frightened look. Noah says that he urgently needs to pay Albert a visit. Noah doesn't understand anything. She asks the girl why she was called Olivia and why Noah should trust her. The girl says that she is the daughter of the former confidant of the first Prince Gilbert. Noah asks her again about Coyle's butler. Noah thinks that she is illegitimate, to which the girl confirms his words. If an illegitimate child is born into the family of the imperial prince's servants, he must swear allegiance to his parent and serve him faithfully and truly for his entire life. The girl is grateful to Noah for saving Gilbert, but is irritated by Albert's actions. Assuming the people are aware, she is triumphant that Noah is willing to listen to her story of revenge. She says that the story of the disinheritance has not yet spread throughout the kingdom, so they need a crown prince as soon as possible. Noah asks Albert what he wants to do with His Majesty. She says that he wants His Majesty to abdicate the throne against his will, and then take his place and become emperor. Noah suspects that Albert is planning a coup, trying to obtain secret information. Despite the servant's failure, the brother has learned the king's plans and decides to punish Noah. The girl, expressing her willingness to serve, falls to the floor. She will do whatever he wants. She also asks Noah for permission to take revenge on Albert. After some silence, Noah understood everything. Noah asks what kind of work she did for Gilbert. She says she helped her father, to which Noah says he's hiring her and will pay her the same as his brother. The girl asks why he's so kind to her, to which Noah says that her loyalty is in his hands, so he asks her to serve as the Lord and asks her to be faithful even after being sent to the next world. The girl admires and does not understand what was being discussed. Suddenly, a characteristic window appears. The darkness increased by +F. Noah says that the girl named Olivia is now devoted only to him. Sometime later, at night, in the Ministry of Military Affairs, Noah was hurrying to some place. Noah says that there are about 1,000 soldiers in this particular place. They are trained to obey without question and do everything that their superiors say. Noah catches his brother near the army, asking why he has gathered troops at night, suggesting that they stop before it is too late. Noah is met with feigned incomprehension from his brother. Noah says that his brother will not dare to carry out his plan. Noah threatens and says that if he tries to go against him, then Noah swears that he will destroy the entire army along with his brother. The brother appears, saying that if he admits his guilt, he will immediately go to the chopping block. Noah does not understand how his brother can go against his majesty and set up his own brother. The brother says that he does not care about his brother's life. Noah is very shocked by Albert's answer. Noah says that his status is now hanging in the balance, so Albert will do everything to keep his position. Noah says that Albert, as the crown prince, will destroy anyone who stands in his way. For Albert, defeat is the same as being sent to the next world. Realizing Noah's determination, Albert gives the order to detain and kill his brother. The army immediately rushes to meet Noah. Noah is surrounded by an army on all sides. Taking out his sword, Noah says that he did not want to use force, but now he has no other choice. A voice interrupts Noah's attack, telling him to leave it to him. He asks Noah to call him. That familiar voice echoed in Noah's mind, and one name immediately came to mind. Noah begins to call upon Ruthia. He screams and asks her to appear before him. Suddenly, the ring on Noah's finger begins to glow. Noah himself begins to glow and pronounces the name Bahamut. A silhouette appears behind Noah, which gradually appears. A huge dragon appears behind Noah, which, with its weight, breaks the ground on which it stood. Raising his head up, the dragon lets out a loud and ominous roar. The entire army is shocked and dumbfounded with fear. Albert is also shocked by what he sees. The dragon soars upward. The entire army watches his takeoff. Suddenly, the dragon starts to spew flames, which instantly sets the entire army on fire. The army starts to burn in flames, screaming in pain. Albert fears for his life, so he is shocked by what he saw. The dragon roars in the sky, making it clear that he is the strongest here. The army on the ground is ablaze. Some of them flee, enveloped in flames. Flapping its wings, the dragon only fans the flames, giving the fire great power. The army is still burning. It is falling from its feet in pain. Noah shows incredible strength and aura that comes from him. Noah has a determined look that reflects hatred. Albert is shocked and scared by Noah's look. He realizes what he did, but does not show it. Noah stops the destruction of the army. In front of him lie the exhausted men of the army. They are all wounded and scared. The ring on Noah's finger gradually fades. Noah says that this is the end, turning to his brother. Albert is afraid and in hysterics cannot believe that Noah will destroy him. Noah denies his words. Noah will not take his brother's life because his father will be sad. Noah says that their father will be sad to see the two sons fight. Noah takes the bottle in his hand, showing it to Albert. The brother immediately recognizes the poison in the vessel. Noah confirms this, offering to voluntarily take the poison. Albert, distraught from humiliation, reacts violently, and Noah warns of the possible consequences of murder. Then Albert will die as a traitor. Albert is shocked and scared by Noah's words. Noah says that he can still understand the soldiers, but he has given up on the idea. It'll be easier for everyone if Albert himself goes to the afterlife. Noah says that you can't erase what has already happened. Noah goes on to say that if the brother drinks the poison, the family will be safe, and the eldest son will be able to continue the family line. Blinded by anger, Albert orders soldiers Focetra and Harvard to detain Noah. Assessing the strength of his opponents, Noah suddenly becomes frightened, changing his facial expression. These soldiers grab Albert by the arms, which even Albert himself did not expect such a turn of events. He begins to resent the soldiers, but Harvard says that they will not follow Albert. Soldier Foster harshly condemns Albert's behavior, defending Noah's family. The other soldiers restrain the enraged Albert, ignoring his objections. Noah watches the scene in silence. Foster and Noah recall the Leviathan tragedy that claimed 120 lives, leading to Noah receiving the sword, meeting Watts, and acquiring the Leviathan. Foster says that his older brother was among the dead as well as his friends. Harvard confirms his words and adds that his father was also dead. Foster shouts that they will never listen to Albert again. Harvard turns to Noah. He says that he will do the right thing if he gives poison to Albert. Noah understands everything, but at that moment a voice interrupts him. He turns around and meets Olivia. The girl greets Noah. Noah gives a vial of poison to Olivia and asks her to do it. She takes the vial of poison. Her look changes to sinister. Albert begins to resist and try to break free from the soldier's shackles. He asks her not to forget about her debt to him. The soldiers subdue Albert by forcibly opening his mouth. Albert is shocked, but also tries to resist. Olivia comes closer and pours poison into Albert's open mouth. Albert is forced to swallow the poison, choking and coughing. The soldiers, including Harvard, Olivia, and Foster, watch the process with dignity. Albert instantly falls to the ground. There's silence in this place. No one uttered a single word. Sarcastic Harvard announces the suicide of the Iris crew, who supposedly repented and wished well. Noah supports the version of events. Noah reveals that his brother was planning a coup, realized his mistake, and committed suicide, promising to notify the kingdom and empire to avoid conflict. Foster and Harvard bow before Mr. Noah. Noah looks at something with a frown. A characterization window appears in front of him. Noah says that his data has changed. His spirit, speed, agility, and luck have changed from C to E. Noah assumes that these two soldiers are really on his side. The brother, betrayed by his own men, lies lifeless on the floor. Noah says that people are treasures. Noah says that his brother did not understand the true meaning of these words, and he thinks that he never would. Both Gilbert and Albert died in futile attempts to seize power. Noah says that from this day on, the political situation will be completely different. Then, 3 years later, Noah Arara, who is 15 years old, is heading to Armeria. The sun was shining brightly in the sky. This was the homeland of the element of water, a country called Armeria, and also its great capital. At the age of 15, Noah is enrolled in the academy to study politics. Having experience as a minister of justice, the studies are similar to his previous duties. The girl worries him. This girl with long hair and beautiful eyes wishes Noah good morning. Noah introduces the girl as Audrey, granddaughter of Prince Indra and his future wife. Audrey inquires about the breakfast location. Noah chooses the courtyard. Audrey agrees and attracts assistant Zoe, the manager of personnel. The maids are setting the dining tables in the courtyard. Zoe gives the prepared food to Audrey. Audrey, in turn, offers Mr. Noah a tray of food. Noah says that Audrey has decided to serve Noah breakfast herself today. When Audrey legally becomes Noah's wife, the servants will begin to obey not only him. All power after marriage will also pass to his wife. The royal family has its own chain that determines the role of everyone who lives in the castle. Noah is at the top, taking the place of the master of the house, and his future wife is the second. The manager, who watches over all the servants, closes this chain. Noah tells her that next week Audrey turns 15, which the girl managed to forget about. This allows them to have the ceremony. Audrey can't wait for that day. The initiation ceremony is an old rite in which the future wife officially takes her husband's surname. In doing so, she shows that she is ready to renounce her old life and enter a new one. Everyone in the city is waiting for the ceremony. The royal family is also waiting for the ceremony. Audrey confirms his words and says that she is also waiting for the day when she officially takes Noah's surname. Audrey, with an embarrassed face, as well as with joy in her eyes and a smile on her face, says that she really wants to become Mr. Noah's wife. Noah says that it is just a formality, and that she will become Noah's wife and take his last name without the ceremony. Audrey thanks Noah for the words. After walking down a city street lined with shops, Noah enters a tavern with a picture of a barrel and flowers on the corner of the house. Inside, he is greeted by a waiter, and his gaze accidentally falls on a girl with long braids in a bun. She was wearing a cloak with a clasp on her chest. This girl was Alice. She was glowing with joy in her kind nature. Noah, after he became the emperor's right hand, two fairly famous singers appeared in the capital, who, having gained popularity, began performing in different parts of the empire. Alice became one of these singers. After finishing her performance, Alice bows to the audience. The delighted audience admires her vocals, and one man seriously considers moving because of the outstanding qualities of the local governor. During the audience's conversation, Noah recognizes Evelyn, the former butler, who has become a popular governor. People note the improvement in life and admire her wisdom. The man says that this girl became governor thanks to the crown prince. He saw potential in her, so he helped pay for her education and mentored her all the time. She is extremely grateful to the prince. Noah, hearing the men's words, rejoices and says that Evelyn is giving all her strength to development and prosperity. Meanwhile, Alice comes back on stage. Noah says that the intermission is over, and now he needs to focus on the concert. A man approaches the stage, stamping his boots loudly, introducing himself as Pascal's friend. He demands that Alice sing from now on exclusively for her patron. Alice rejects the man's offer, asserting her independence. In response, he threatens her with the name of Governor Nisir, demanding a night with the singer in exchange. Cold-blooded Alice repeats her refusal, provoking the aggressors to try to take her by force. Grabbing the girl, the man threatens problems. The watching Noah intervenes, ordering them to stop the attack. Recognizing Noah, the attackers try to push him back by threatening him with Pascal's name. Unfazed, Noah summons Bahamut, donning fiery gloves and going on the offensive. With a swift strike, Noah sends the main attacker flying and into flames, leaving the others in terror. The next strike sends another enemy into flames. With his next blow, Noah strikes the third man, ending the duel. The shocked crowd applauds the hero. The guards, who arrived at the noise, demand an explanation. Noah openly admits his guilt, showing off his defeated enemies. The guards immediately recognize His Royal Highness with fear. They apologize to His Highness Noah for misunderstanding the situation. One of the men in the crowd is surprised and says that this guy is the 13th prince. The other men also recognize the 13th crown prince. The crowd starts shouting, saying that it was His Highness who helped stop the bandits. They admire Noah's insane strength. Noah orders the guards to put these guys in prison, thereby pointing to the beaten guys lying at the end of the scene. Noah says that these are messengers of a certain Pascal. Having noticed the loss, he will definitely go looking for them. Then Noah says that this Pascal should find him. Then Noah approaches Alice. He asks about her health and asks if she recognizes Noah. Alice, with a smile on her face, says that she has not forgotten his name, and that she did not want to tarnish his name in front of these bandits, who are not worthy of hearing his name. Noah says that this is just like Alice, and asks her to continue singing. Alice immediately agrees. The crowd at the stands suddenly goes silent. She arrives in a bit of shock. The table empties after the food and drinks. The audience is drawn home despite their admiration for the singer's appearance. One spectator bends over, preparing to leave the room. There were two men who bowed down to Noah, who were sitting on a chair. At this moment, Noah was calmly sipping a drink from a mug. One of the men turns to Lawrence and says that everything they do is beneath their greatness. Lawrence turns to Pascal and says that if he tries to escape now, he will only make things worse. A shocked Pascal wonders why the conspirators chose the 13th prince. Loyal assistant Lawrence emphasizes the need to follow the monarch's will. Noah, noticing both, makes Pascal bow low. Pascal is afraid of Noah's piercing gaze. Lawrence is calm at this moment. Noah looks at these two men, with a majestic and angry look that shows how displeased he is with the antics of Pascal's servants. White light flickers over the audience, captivated by the finale of the performance. Pascal asks Lawrence to stop what is happening, but the advisor objects, warning of growing discontent if he retreats. Looking up, but also bowing to the ground, Pascal addresses the 13th imperial prince. Pascal says that His Highness is a completely different person. With a stammering voice, Pascal turns to His Highness the 13th prince and asks him to listen to him. Noah looks down on the timid Pascal with disdain, finding the punishment mild. Pascal, standing below, and Lawrence tremble before him. Noah asks Pascal if he realizes what he has done. Pascal confirms His Highness' words, and says that he understands that he has done unforgivable things. His Highness ponders and thinks that Pascal has not understood or realized anything. Then Noah turns his attention to the second man and thinks that this guy is acting quite calm. Noah addresses Lawrence. The boy addresses His Majesty and introduces himself as Lawrence Pardon. He has been appointed assistant to Mr. Pascal. Noah wonders where Lawrence came from. Lawrence says that his father is from the West, which means that Lawrence is also from the West. Noah notices Lawrence's accent and thinks that he speaks rather arrogantly. but not at all rudely. Noah finds his situation amusing and thinks that while his master is trembling with fear, Lawrence is not the least bit worried. His Highness, the 13th Crown Prince Noah Ararat, then addresses Pascal, who reacts with fear. Noah orders Pascal to prepare a document with a report and accusations. Pascal raises his head sharply and addresses His Highness. Pascal asks again what exactly he must do. Pascal must bring charges against himself. Noah confirms his words and says that he needs a detailed report from Pascal to determine the punishment. Besides, Pascal himself admitted that he did unforgivable things. A frightened Pascal looks at Noah in silence. The threat of punishment forces him to unquestioningly carry out the will of the Crown Prince. Pascal and Lawrence thank His Highness Noah. They then leave, where Lawrence supports the exhausted Pascal. With a happy face, Alice thanks Noah. Noah asks Alice if she succeeded in everything, to which she confirms his words and says that she is very grateful to him for everything. There is an awkward silence between them. Noah suggests that Alice sing for him as a thank you. Alice smiles and says that she would be happy to sing for His Highness Noah. Alice says that singing alone is not enough to repay Noah for his kindness, and she also says that she should not ask her so politely. Noah laughs a little and says that Alice is, as always, being modest. But he likes that about her. The building has high ceilings. People are still sitting at the counters. Noah's voice is heard saying that the case is not finished yet. He says that this situation is not considered a particularly serious crime, but if minor crimes are left unattended, the person will start doing something worse. He asks to leave this matter to him. Noah tells Alice to be careful when she performs. Otherwise, such incidents may become more frequent, so in her place, Noah would think about his safety and do something. Alice asks Noah with a small exclamation, why is His Highness so worried about her? Noah says that her vocal abilities are very good. He will introduce Alice to security so that her life is safe. Alice is embarrassed and says in a joyful voice that she is incredibly grateful to His Highness. Noah's last request is to hear Alice's song again, which he missed because of the accident. The joyful singer grants the prince's wish. The ensuing night is decorated with stars and a bright crescent moon. Morning at the palace brings a visit from the prince's assistant Don Otts to Noah. The guy politely greets, introducing himself, and Noah reciprocates. On Noah's desk are letters admitting guilt, detailing the incident at the amphitheater, and describing subsequent punishment for unacceptable behavior. One letter is original and official. The other is a copy specially made for Noah. The signature of the first letter is real, made by Pascal's hand. The signature of the second is artificially reproduced by Lawrence. Don says Lawrence did everything he could to get his master's sentence lightened. Lawrence is a really smart guy. Noah recalls that he had already told His Majesty that insults or harm should only be punished to the highest degree if guilt is fully proven. In other words, one letter contains Pascal's sincere confession. The second letter contains Lawrence's clearing of his master's name and presenting arguments that make him look innocent. Noah remembers that just yesterday Lawrence's face didn't move a muscle, while Pascal was ready to sink into the ground with fear. Noah thinks that Lawrence is a self-confident guy since he decided to do such a thing. Don asks His Royal Highness Noah what he plans to do about it, to which Noah says that Pascal will first need to be given a hefty fine. Noah is confident in his decision and says that, judging by the impression Lawrence made on them, he could be good if he was directed in the right direction. Don praised His Highness for his generosity. Noah then orders Don to go to Lawrence. Noah then tells Don to give Lawrence one thing. He then holds out his palm, on which lies a box. Don picks up the box and is surprised by this offering. Noah says that this box is made from a piece of a ring and pollen. Only the one who closed this box will be able to open it again. This box will not give in to others. D. He thinks about the words of His Highness Noah. Noah says that they can use Lawrence, since Pascal will not utter a word out of fear, and this box will be some means of communication. Don Oates realized that this box contained information about the person holding it in his hands, confirming Don's observation. Noah is admired for his insight. Taking the box, Don feels a special trust from Noah, perceiving it as a great honor. Noah chuckled a little before looking down. Noah tells Don to look at something. Noah holds out his hand, on which lay a similar box, but bent and all dented. Don is interested in this box and asks Noah that someone wanted to open this box using bad methods. Noah says, it's just a box that changed shape in the hands of a man who decided to brag about working for him. At this moment, Don's expression changed. and with a slightly angry look he asks Mr. Noah again. Noah says that these boxes remember the fingerprints of all the people who have ever held them in their hands. If the person who holds the box insincerely pronounces words of loyalty, the box will self-destruct. Dawn admires the box's design, committing to justify the trust placed in him. Holding the box sparkling in the sun, Noah warns his friend against making mistakes. Noah smiles and knows that Dawn will not let him down, because the box has long ago chosen and recognized Dawn Oates. A beautiful sunny day gives way to a calm and quiet night. In the palace, Noah, Audrey, and Zoe are gathered at a table. Ruthia swings her sword, attacking the Leviathan, who manages to dodge the blow a little. The Leviathan lets out a furious roar, then rises into the air and sets Ruthia on fire with his fiery breath. Leviathan looks at the column of smoke from the fallen Ruthia. Noah realizes that this is not a bad result for him. His magical abilities have changed with the manifestation of Bahamut and Ruthia's power. Then Noah turns to something above and asks him or her to open his skill table. The skill table appears in front of him, where Noah has already reached level 10. Audrey congratulates Mr. Noah with admiration and a smile. Audrey says that Noah is an amazing person, because he was able to level up with one click. She says that such an achievement deserves great respect. Noah asks Audrey if she knows how to raise her level, to which Audrey says that she has been informed. Since Audrey was born into a noble family, she is required to have knowledge regarding ranks and levels. Noah doesn't understand Audrey's words when she said that Noah is able to level up with one click, to which Audrey says that she alone thinks that only Mr. Noah is able to gain rank so quickly. Audrey says that this is further proof that Noah is the chosen one, and that he has no equal. Zoe is also delighted with Mr. Noah's actions. Suddenly, Noah hears a sound from the front door. A moment later, a maid enters the room, apologizes for the disturbance, and tells Noah that he has a visitor. Audrey stands up for the gentleman, saying that it is already quite late and that Mr. Noah will see him tomorrow. Noah stops Audrey. Noah rises from his seat and asks the visitor to come in. The door gradually opens. Mr. Noah's gaze changes to one of surprise and shock. An emaciated, dirty young man can barely stand on his feet as he tells Noah that he has an urgent message from Cindy. Then this guy holds out his palms, on which lies a whole box. His glove fingers were dirty, but the box was perfect. Taking the box, Noah remembers Cindy Allen, Byron's fiancée, with whom he befriended at the reception and later collaborated in politics. Mr. Noah asks the boy how he got here. The boy says that he changed 3 horses to get to the master. Noah asks Zoe to reward the ambassador in the amount of 100 gold coins. Noah takes the box and begins to examine it more closely. Noah is immediately frightened by something. Thus, his look changes to surprise. There was a message written in the box which said that His Majesty was ill. Noah's face immediately changed from fear. At that moment, it was deep night. During a quiet morning breakfast with Audrey, Noah is informed of a messenger from the palace. The prince allows the envoy to enter. Audrey asks Noah if this ambassador is here because of yesterday's message, to which Noah confirms her words. Audrey says it's amazing that Mr. Noah knew about it before everyone else, and Noah confirms her words as he runs off to meet the ambassador. Noah thinks and says that His Majesty himself wanted no one to know about this, sending Noah the box and thus showing the importance of the news. Noah enters the room and is surprised by what is happening. Ambassador Cruz hands Noah the imperial decree. The prince kneels respectfully, listening to the ambassador's orders. Cruz relays the monarch's order. Noah will remain in charge of the country for another month, excluding military matters. Having accepted the instruction, Noah straightens up. Then Ambassador Cruz kneels before him. He is glad to see Crown Prince Noah. Noah tells him to stop ruining the floor and orders him to get up from his knees. He then inquires about His Majesty's health. Cruz says that His Imperial Majesty has been overcome by the so-called summer blues. Noah asks Cruz again. Cruz says that His Majesty is no longer young, so he has begun to lose consciousness frequently due to fatigue. Cruz says that the doctor advised His Majesty to take a short vacation and go away for a month to relax in nature, away from work. Noah understood everything immediately. Cruz says that His Majesty also ordered me to convey that he has great confidence in Noah and completely trusts the Crown Prince with his affairs. Noah thinks that thanks to the box he learned about the Emperor's illness earlier. So in order to avoid unnecessary questions, he sent a messenger to Noah without revealing the secret of the box. Cruz says he's honored to deliver the message, as the Emperor trusts no one more than Crown Prince Noah. Noah says Cruz is being a bit over the top. Then Noah asks about government affairs. Noah doesn't know what exactly awaits him. Cruz quotes His Majesty as saying that Noah should simply stay in Almeria and do his usual business. All documents will be given to Noah for rechecking, so His Majesty is counting on Noah. Noah understood everything at once. He then asks Zoe to take Cruz to the guest room so that he can rest, and asks her to give him 5,000 gold. Cruz thanks Noah, saying that he is kind to him. Noah sighs after receiving the information. Noah is surprised by the appearance of the skill window, finding it impossible to gain new abilities by completing normal tasks. All of his stats have increased by plus SS skill levels. He then asks Zoe to show him the status of his magic. Zoe immediately gets to work. In the skills window, all of Noah's stats have been increased to SSS level. Zoe, seeing Mr. Noah's characteristics, immediately became happy and said that it was great. By entrusting His Majesty's affairs to Noah, his magic reached a new level.